What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete. What's up?
And on The
man,
Stack,
little patience.
What's up?
talk about little patience. On The Stack, we talk about a bunch of books that have come out.
We
this
sure
week.
do.
Let's kick it off talking about Avengers Beyond, #1 from Marvel.
So it's beyond the Avengers. It's not about the Avengers. It's beyond them.
Yeah.
Well, here's
they
the
were
thing. This
forever, and then now we're beyond that.
This is written by Derek Landy, art by Greg Land. This is spinning off directly from All Out Avengers, which was
Yes.
a book
Oh, right.
that
the All Out one.
ostensibly was done in one Adventures of the Avengers, but as it turned out, somebody was manipulating him in the background. Over the course of it, they started to figure out that somebody was manipulating them, and turns out the big reveal at the end of the last issue, Captain America figured it out, is it's the Beyonder. Hence the title Beyond here. Now finally we have the Avengers dealing with it, bringing the threat to the forefront. So everything you need to know is in this first issue, I would say. So if you want to jump in with this, it's fine. But it definitely helps to read All Out Avengers, which was super fun as well, and we really loved before you get into this. But given all that, given we're finally getting into the main plot here, we don't necessarily have the done-in-one structure, how did you guys feel about this one?
Take me off to Landy Land, because I think this is a great team on this book. I like this mystery that pieces of the Avengers' lives keep getting sort of knocked away. Their memories are messed with. It's the Beyonder, and then the Beyonder's like, I'm here. I'm a sort of a jerk. Oh, no, bye. And then he vanishes after he causes a problem for our current Avengers to deal with. I like this Avengers team. I like She-Hulk being there. I like the way that Iron Man and Black Panther are sort of two sides of the coin, where they literally each make one half of a machine and both confidently know it's going to come together and work in a cool way. It's a fun series. Everyone has knocked Greg Land's art over the years for many different reasons, but I think it really fits here.
For tracing porn stars, let's be honest.
I guess that's what the main complaint was. But I do like it here.
It was hard. I was very distracted by the shoulder pads in this, though. This is
That's what I was just about to say.
Shoulder pads, and I was just like, wow, we're bringing these
You're
back.
talking, just to be clear, you're talking about it. It's a classic Secret Wars 2 style Beyonder who shows up.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my shoulder pads that I'm wearing. No, not these ones?
No, not those.
Okay, because my Paula Poundstones?
Yeah. Sick reference, dude. I loved it. Paula Poundstone, dude, her stand-up specials back in the days were fire.
They
bro.
killed.
Fire.
Shouts to 80s stand-up specials that look like they were taped on your uncle's.
So you guys didn't like the classic Beyonder here? Is that what I'm getting?
No, I like classic Beyonder vibe.
I couldn't hear anything he was saying because I kept looking at the shoulder pads because I was like, are you seriously not going to address these? You're just
here, do these comics talk to you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Well, my issue with the shoulder pads is they look metallic. And are those metallic or are they cotton puffs?
Right.
It's unclear.
That to me, and then we could probably move on and talk about the next comic book. But that
Space
to me,
fashion's crazy, dog.
It's crazy, bro.
It kind of works for me with the action movie. I know we've been using this word a lot, but like high octane feel of this book, like versus Jason Aaron's book, which is this epic story that he's been telling over 5 years. That is also, mind you, very fun and very over the top and very ridiculous. Yeah. This is just like Fast and the Furious Avengers. That's pretty much what it is in terms of like the tone of what's going on here. And that to me is like, what do you want? You want classic ludicrous looking Beyonder Beyonder to show up here and work in. I had a great time reading this book.
I did too. Like I'm only, and I agree with Peter. It just is so funny how distracting it is. How big the show. They take up just a lot of the actual frame.
They do. Like the artist was, really giving.
He's drowning in his shirt. Yeah. He's like a kid wearing his dad's suit at prom.
Yeah.
This reminds me a lot of the tone of the early Marvel movies as well. When Jason Aaron is like broad scale, like Avengers Endgame style, the movies. This feels a little more focused, a little bit lower budge, but just like really investing in the quippiness and the
all the money went to the shoulder pads. There's no question. But I think though, to get past the shoulder pads, if we can,
I don't think so.
The action and adventure in this it has a great kind of Marvel feel and storytelling and art style that I think is glorious.
Take me to Landy Land.
Yep. agreed.
Let's move on to another thing that I'm curious to hear if you guys feel is another clean slate. Waller versus Wildstorm, #1 from DC Comics, written by Spencer Ackerman and Evan Narcisse, art by Jesús Merino. This is a Black Label book, so it takes place ostensibly out of continuity. And in fact, we're getting to a earlier Wildstorm universe that is already part of the DC universe. Lois Lane is investigating a mystery that ties into a younger Amanda Waller and Checkmate and the Milestone characters all working together. So it's this mashed together universe that I think is important to know that going in, because definitely half the book I tried mentally to figure out what universe, what's going on here, what timeline is here. But the important thing is it doesn't matter. This is a fresh start. This is a new thing. This is its own thing. These are characters you know, but in different iterations.
That's
Pete,
interesting that you said that, because I was kept looking at Lois Lane's hat and I'm like, what sports team are they referencing here, or is it a city? I was really having a hard time with it. It was very distracting, and then the T-shirt you couldn't quite.
So just to make clear, first issue you were distracted by the shoulder pads. Second issue you were distracted by the hat. Let's see if this is a trend. 3 is a trend.
But also I love the '80s feel of this. I think it was really great and cool. Also, you gonna swear Lois Lane? That's fucked up, man. I didn't appreciate it. I wasn't
She
there
was
for
swearing?
that. No, got swore at. Someone swore at Lois Lane. Like, who can hear that? Soups. You just wait a second, because there's going to be a
To be
retort.
clear, this is a young cub reporter, Lois Lane, who hasn't worked her way up the ranks yet, so she may not know Superman, and Superman may not show up here.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part for me with this was what you're talking about, Alex, like just pinpointing where all these characters are in relation to all the other versions of them that we've known over the years. Because, like, I like the use of Lois Lane here, and without Superman. I'm glad we didn't have Superman here or involved at all. I like Battalion here. I like Amanda Waller being young and sneaky, and they're just realizing what a problem she is. But because it doesn't put us in that spot at first, we have to sort of learn it over time. So it just takes a little bit of time to get in there. But I do think it's worth that journey to get there, because I think the tone is really interesting for this. It feels like a classic, like 80s or 90s mystery movie where like almost like a John Grisham style, like with superheroes, Pelican Brief or something like that, where we're just unraveling this mystery, and we know at the beginning that Amanda Waller's at the center of it, yet it's still a nice ride to find out that she is over the course of it.
Yeah.
Totally agree, and I think that's one of the joys of the Black Label books. If I had known that going in, it wouldn't have taken me half the issue to get there, but hopefully those of you listening to it can get into it, because it's a good paranoid thriller. Indigo Children, #1 from Image Comics, written by Curt Pires and Rockwell White, art by Aex Diotto. This is following another conspiracy that somebody has tried to unravel, involving some strange children who may have powers. There's a lot of time jumping that's going on here. If you're reading Youth by Curt Pires, this feels like a natural extension of that, I would say, except going in a different direction with the story. What do you guys think?
I think this was a solid first ish, like really does a great job of like catching the reader. That, scene on the airplane, holy shit. So yeah, they did a great job of up front getting it intense to kind of grab your attention. And then, like, I love the color palette and the choices they make. This is a very intense book, but very interesting start. I'm hooked. I can't wait for more.
Yeah, this feels like a fun, wide lens, like Netflix style superhero show. I mean that all complimentary. It also reminds me a little bit of what was that found footage superhero movie that was very popular back like 10 years ago?
Starts with a C.
Yeah, it's like Courage or something like that.
That's not what it is.
No,
but it's
that's
definitely
not what it is.
By Max Landis, who is a terrible person, as we know now. But yeah, there you go.
But it reminds me of that in its storytelling, where it's like this paranormal thing emerges, and we are sort of following it along for the ride in a cool way. The art is really cool, and it's one part of our Pires pile, which is what we're calling this stack.
Yeah. Just on the art note, I want to mention Aex Diotto's art is really a standout of the book. Reminds me very pleasantly, without being derivative, of Ron Garney, I would say, in a way.
Interesting. Interesting.
But really good stuff. I was very pleasantly surprised by this book.
Ron Garney's good call. Chronicle is the movie.
Chronicles of Narnia.
See, I got it. Yes, it was Chronicle.
No, Narnia.
Chronicle.
The Lion, Narnia. The Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah,
that's right.
Chronicles.
Sorry. Speaking of C's, Clobberin Time, #1 from Marvel by Steve Skroce. Maybe my issue of the week, I gotta say.
I mean, when I read this, I was like, this is a Zalbin in the Zalbin pocket.
This is a Zalbin pocket? Really? Because I read this and I was like, this is kind of my issue of the week, but this is also like Pete in a Pete pocket. Pete, were you like, this is Justin in a Justin pocket?
I get you two confused is the thing. Like you guys occupy the same.
We both have beards and glasses, and
and that's it. That's the only two things.
So this is exactly what you would want out of a Steve Skroce Marvel book. It is a Thing book, and surprisingly, it's a Thing ongoing or miniseries book. I probably should have looked it up, but I was surprised to find that it was continuing. But in this issue, it is Thing and a Hulk get sent to another dimension by a mystery villain. They have to fight monsters constantly through there. I don't know if you guys read this back in the day, but there was this old graphic novel called Hulk and Thing, The Big Change, where they got sent to an alien planet and they had to have a burger eating contest.
Yeah, of course. That's why I thought of you.
Love that book. This reminded me very pleasantly of this, mixed with absolutely like brutal monster fights.
Yeah.
The Thing doing the grossest thing in all of comics, his rocks falling off. So gross. Oh,
if you think that's gross, and Hulk calls him rock lips or something. Yeah, road lips. He calls him over and over again. And I was like, road lips is a gross
I had so much fun reading this book. The art was so good. It's so detailed. It's so precise. Loved it.
Yeah, and also really funny last panel. That whole Hulk could eat. Oh, I love that. Love that so much.
Yeah, Hulk could eat. But if you think this issue has some gross stuff in it, the page for next issue is just all of the individual little rock scabs are being pulled off. It's very gross. Not my thing.
But like Pete was saying, though, there's some funny bits in here, like Reed Richards stretching up his neck and just having his head literally above the clouds and them not being able to bother him with what's going on because he's so busy doing an experiment. That's very fun. The offhand way, things like, all right, let's make some plans. And Hulk's like, no time for plans, beat up monsters throughout the book. Just so funny, so much fun.
There's this fun thing when Reed's head is so stretched out, and Bruce Banner's like, "Can I just pull on his neck?" And he's like, "Nah, he hates that." And I was like, "Of course he hates that. Don't touch a neck. Don't touch a neck, even if it's really long."
Great stuff. Definitely pick up this book. What a delight. Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, #2 from DC Comics, written by G. Willow Wilson, art by Cian Tormey and Emanuela Lupacchino. We've been getting really hung up on the title for Lazarus Planet, so I'm just going to skip by all of this.
It's funny you say that. I just have a couple comments on the title Lazarus Planet. It's like they took the event of Lazarus Planet and they keep dipping it into a Lazarus Planet. It keeps coming back a little younger and a little crazier each time.
Well,
and maybe that's the point of the event.
I think that's what it is.
So this is the gods attacking the superheroes. In the first issue, we got Wonder Woman being tricked by Hera. In this issue, we turned the lens to the Shazam family. Specifically Billy and Mary, as they fight again. And we already know this, but the wizard Shazam is teamed up with Hera. That's something that comes out over the course of this issue. I really like this event. Once I got past the whole title thing, I think it's good. At the end.
You know what's funny is that what happens in this comic is what I thought was going to happen in the Shazam 2 movie at the end there. So it was funny to kind of get it in comic form. And when I was watching the movie, I thought it was going to happen, and it didn't.
I mean, honestly, some of this stuff did happen. Like a bunch of mythical beasts loose in the city.
Yeah, but that last part, I thought for sure, because of the way all the kids were acting, I had thought like, okay, the wizard's got to be like, you fucking guys, give me this shit back.
But Alex, if you showed up on Mars planet thinking it was going to be like a fun spot to go for vacation and got there and realized what it was, wouldn't you be a little disappointed?
I guess so. One thing that I did want to bring up, though, about this book, not to completely swerve from what you're saying, Justin, but I was definitely struck by, oh man, it's a real bummer when comic book companies are like, big movie coming out, we're going to lead into these characters, we're going to put out this title, and then the movie just doesn't work, like Shazam 2 is bombing at the box office right now. They're just leading into the Shazam stuff here, working it in with Wonder Woman, and it made me a little sad while I was reading.
Well, I get that, but I actually took solace. I had the opposite feeling. Like I was like, "Oh, look, this is a good story using these characters to their more full potential." So I was happy to ride along with this story, despite seeing the fury of the gods and being disappointed by it. But I just want to say, with the way Lazarus Planet's going, I look forward to Lazarus Planet Justin's funeral in like 30 years. 'Cause I will be a part of this.
We'll dip you in,
event.
bro.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
Yeah. We'll have one of those French dip funerals you've been hearing about.
Oh man, those are the. I love a good French dip.
Yeah, Justin would have loved this, being dipped in his own gravy.
What a great food for any sort of mournful event.
Yeah.
Well, let's move to another thing that's definitely tying into a movie that's coming out. Dungeons and Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures #1 from IDW, written by David M. Booher and Sam Maggs, art by George Kambadais. To be clear, this is not an adaptation or tying into the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie that's coming out.
Yeah, so weird that you mentioned it.
Well, but I think it's timely publication-wise.
Yes, and it's following up on the 80s cartoon that, mild spoilers, but I think this
great
is
cartoon.
Commercials. The 80s cartoon group does show up in the movie, so that's definitely the tie-in.
Spoiler, dude.
Spoiler. But what did you guys think about this one? Did you guys watch this cartoon back in the day? And if so, how do you feel this followed up on it?
I did. I love the style of this comic. It's a little different from the cartoon, but it does have an animation feel. But I feel like they did a great job of kind of like capturing this kind of like wholesome style of kind of Dungeons and Dragons. And I thought this was a blast. I thought this, not only was the art good, there was some fun storytelling stuff in here. I just felt like it was a solid book that from the first kind of page, you kind of got an understanding of where you were going and what's going on. And they really delivered on it.
Yeah, to put on the old head for a second, like when this cartoon aired, I think I only saw it in reruns, but it was the one we talked about all the time. Like, oh man, I hope that comes back, or like, because you never knew back then when you were a kid if what was happening with
there was no internet, there was no answers. You just had to hope.
No phones. You just had to wheel your little wheel with a stick over to your friend's house and be like, "What's happening?"
The Deadline Hollywood wasn't being hand delivered to my my upstate New York home.
Yeah, the only Deadline Hollywood they had in those days was the Black Plague.
Wow, dude. I think you're going back a little too far.
Yeah,
that work?
The Black Dahlia? Maybe?
Yeah, sure. All right, that's better.
Like the murders.
We'll plus this up in post.
Definitely. Just like Deadline does. What I was going to say is, so I love this cartoon universe. And what I think this series does really well, this first issue, is it takes the characters, puts us right there on episodic, fun characters who don't ever change, and then changes them sort of right out of the gate in an interesting way. And I like the way this story just moves. It felt short. It was a quick read. I'm looking forward to more.
I agree.
It's Jeff, #1 from Marvel, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Gurihiru. This is a collection of digital strips that have published on Marvel Unlimited in issue form. Having not read the digital strips, I was very happy to read this issue. There are a bunch of very cute bits involving the land shark who lives with Hawkeye.
Cute?
Yeah, they put on a dolphin costume so no one gets scared of him. You know what I mean? Adorable.
He wore a dolphin's flesh, disguised himself for his own selfish advantage. He ate a meal, a Thanksgiving meal, ruined a Thanksgiving,
and then napped in the oven because it's warm and toasty.
Napped in the oven? That's he's a monster. He's a monster.
A menace.
You should be ashamed of yourself for giving more attention to Jeff. the land shark, who is cute.
I can't wait to follow him on Insta. I feel like these are adorable little glimpses into the life of Jeff. Yeah, I mean, if I would have seen these ahead of time, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun. But seeing them for the first time, I thought it was just, really the way it just kind of sets it up and delivers. These are just adorable little tales about a rascal of a land shark who's just trying to be loved and get some snack time, and he doesn't want to get stuck in the washing machine, and neither do I.
You really saw yourself in this little guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Living his best life.
I'm getting the feeling you got stuck in the washing machine at some point, Pete.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, so there were like 10 little stories here. How many of these have you also lived through, Pete? How many
I've
of
definitely
these
worn a dolphin skin before to try to fit in. Yeah.
Now, real quick question. Not that you got trapped in a washing machine, but if you got trapped in a washing machine, was it a trail of Tide Pods that you followed, eating them one by one until you fell into there?
No, it's just a warm place to nap, and sometimes you got to make sure mom's paying attention. You know what I mean?
All right, fair enough.
Wow, not the answer I thought you were going to give.
I did almost convince my brother when I think we were like 8 and 4 to go into the washing machine.
Oh, wow.
No, it was the dryer. It was the dryer, actually. Okay. Because he was like, I'm small enough to fit in there. And I was like, I bet you aren't.
Oh, see, even as a kid, you love the torture.
In my defense, as soon as he started to crawl in, I was like, no, I can't do this. He's going to get stuck in there, and then I'm going to have to turn it on, and then
I'm going to have to turn it on.
You saw it from
all angles. You are the worst person, dude. You are the worst.
Alex's first words when he was a baby was, "Are those a bunch of hoodies hanging behind you on the podcast?" So you can see he's always been up to something.
Anyway, this book is a delight. If you haven't checked it out digitally, definitely check it out physically. Action Comics 1053 from DC Comics, written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Dan Jurgens, and Leah Williams, art by Rafa Sandoval, Lee Weeks, and Marguerite Sauvage. This is continuing to tell 3 stories of the Superman family. In the front story, we're getting Metallo, or Metallos, versus the Superman family, and then we get 2 follow-ups. One of the Superman and John Kent and Lois Lane moving back to a Smallville farm back in the day and fighting against a proto-Doomsday. And then in the final backstory, we are getting Power Girl, or a riff on Power Girl, as it turns out, who now has some new psychic powers that are allowing to explore people's psyches. I said this with the last issue. This continues to be a great package that is well worth your time as a comics magazine. But what did you think of the individual stories?
Yeah, I agree. This is a tight package. It offers a little something for everybody. I love the kind of art style change in the third story that really just popped. I felt like was really cool. And the first story we kind of got this crazy kind of Metallos run wild, and then Superman going to visit Luthor in a cell, which was so intense that I very much enjoyed. I'm having a blast with this. I think they're really killing it, and they got amazing people on this.
The variety is just excellent from artistically across the different the triptych of stories here, but also just the tones of the stories. The front story by Phillip Kennedy Johnson is like, we get this Metallo body horror and just like the layers of deception that are happening here. It's a Superman Lex story. At the same time, it's a Superman Metallo story. At the same time, it's like the Superman family coming to terms with the fact that they weren't a family and now they are. Then you get the lost child tone of John Kent as a kid before he was aged up. And then sort of like the bright art and the sort of psychedelic psyche stuff we're having with Power Girl, also exploring her role in the super family. Like, I love it. Like Alex said, it's a great, well worth the money Superman magazine.
Rocket Man and Rocket Girl, #1 from Dynamite, written by Jacob Edgar, art by Jordi Perez. This is, I believe, a one-shot issue focusing on some classic characters who are getting some new adventures here. I thought this was a solid adventure. I enjoyed this. I was curious to read this because I really enjoyed the Jeff Parker Catman and Catgirl thing that they had done that seems very similar to this and along the same lines. I want to throw something out at you guys that almost has nothing to do with the issue. I wish Dynamite would lean into this stuff instead of all the other stuff they do. And the reason for that is I'm always hesitant to throw Dynamite stuff on the stack because I feel like every single time we review it, we say, wow, this was nothing like these cheesecake covers. This was a good story with good writing and good art. I'm glad we got past the covers and did this stuff. This is something that is just selling on nostalgia, and that's what all of their properties are. When they do that, it works, and it's a bummer to me. I don't know if this is for everybody. Maybe their cheesecake stuff is working for them, and that is a selling point, and they've done, case studies about that. But at least for me, like, that's a barrier to reading their books. And this here, I'm much more willing to pick up something that looks like this is Rocketeer fueled nostalgia than what they regularly put out as part of their line.
Yeah, I would just say maybe direct some of that towards Dynamite and not us. But I think that
no, you're to
none
blame.
of that was directed towards.
No, you were like, here's the deal with Dynamite, and I was like, well, if you got some thoughts on Dynamite, and how
to
they
be
should
clear,
run their
Pete
business,
is the editor in chief. Pete is the editor in chief of Dynamite, so that's why he's feeling this way.
But
Pete,
I agree.
You should feel comfortable. I don't know if you know this, but we're actually recording this, and other people hear it. So it's sort of like Alex is talking to us.
Well, he's making somebody else
people...
do his dirty work, it feels like. Anyways.
Who's doing dirty work?
What are you talking about? I honestly don't know what you're talking about.
Saying your opinion is not having someone else do the dirty work.
Anyways, I agree with you. It does have a Rocketeer kind of great feel to it. It's a very stylized, very cool looking book that's worth it for the art alone in that aspect. But yeah, I think it really delivers on what it kind of sets out to do, and has a fantastic tone.
To your point, Alex, I do think there must be a reason why they're doing all of the more cheesecake covers for so many of their books. It's not like there's just someone over there who's like, yeah, let's go with a naked lady again on the cover. Like there's must be some sales numbers and dollars to back that up. But I agree with you. It's just like a false cover. You can't judge a book by its cover with a lot of these. And obviously this book.
That's deep, man. Wow.
No, but I mean that.
Would you just come up
Pete,
with that
what
on
is
your
your
own?
deal right now? I can't tell if you're
just
defending Dynamite or against Dynamite or just Joker style playing both sides against the middle.
You know what? You are the Joker. And I recently watched Batman 89, and I'll tell you what, Pete, that's you. That's who you are.
That's very creepy, but thank you. I also
Pete, can I just say something just to follow up on what Justin is saying?
Yep.
You're my number one guy.
Beautiful. But on its own merits, I did like this story. It reminded me of some Jeff Parker stuff. Rocketeer's an easy comparison just because of the time frame and the jetpacks.
The rockets.
And the Rocketeers that they are, but a couple. So I think this is a fun read, especially if you want to get that nostalgia hit like Pete, my friend, is saying.
Why don't we talk about Something is Killing the Children?
Yeah,
Number
let's
30
talk about
for Boom Studios, written by James Tennant IV, art by
JT4.
Not to take it in another direction, but I wish they would stop doing these cheesecake covers for Something is Killing the Children. Wow. It is making me too horny looking at these Something is Killing the Children covers, and I think you guys agree.
Nope.
I'm starting to detect
You've got
a
a weird
now.
kink going on there. Yeah.
Okay. No, this is I gotta tell you, I think this is my favorite arc of Something is Killing the Children so far. Like the danger for Erica, our main character, is so high. She has this opposite number from the House of Slaughter that is trying to come after her at the same time as there's a monster that is killing the children per the title, but also it is slowly morphing to look like her. It is so focused and so harrowing. I'm so tense reading every issue of this arc. I'm dreading it and loving it in equal measures.
Well, I think this arc has dispensed with any of the coyness that a lot of the earlier ones had, where we were seeing the story happen, but we didn't know why, who Erica was, and what was going on. Now that we know all that, I feel like this is really running. Everything is working. All the ancillary characters outside of Erica are like in danger or helping or the problem. There's a lot of death and destruction. And then when you see that Erica, you're like, she's going to get blamed for this because it looks like her.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that tension really works on me when I'm reading this.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of last panel of like, oh shit. JT4 is just killing the game right now. This is such an amazing book, such a cool kind of interesting original story that I am just loving. And the whole thing about the dolls is so creepy and fun. And everybody kind of has their own unique story. I'm having such a blast with this. And yeah, I can't believe how kind of ratcheted up the tension. And I don't know if she's going to make it out of this one kind of feeling you have while you're reading it, but it is glorious. And the art is just absolutely type bananas.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to that because I don't think in 30 issues we've really mentioned Werther Dell'Aria's layouts in particular. There's just these... It's not even wide panel. It's just double page or quadruple page or whatever is going on there. Like, it's just these very wide layouts he does that are fascinating and very different. So great book.
So great.
While we're here, I did a little research. I followed the money, as they say. And come to find out, Pete is being sponsored secretly by Dave's Tight Bananas, a produce dealer. And he's been saying this. He's making it every time he says it. He makes like $50. You believe this? He's making
Justin,
$50.
It looks like your research is a little off. I get paid in bananas, my friend. Super tight. Super tight bananas.
Yeah. Hey, tighten up those bananas for me.
Hey, if you got tight bananas, you got a deal.
Yes. Well, anyway, that sounds like the sort of thing that would be going on in Star Wars Jabba's Palace, #1 from Marvel.
Can't stop this guy. And Alex is secretly sponsored by Dave's Transitions Barn, where he's supplying Alex with these transitions.
Dave's Transition Barn, a store where you can buy written by Mark Guggenheim, art by Alessandro Miracolo. In this book, we're getting one background character, I believe, in Star Wars.
Oh, no. He's not a background character.
Oh,
he's a terrifying foreground element in Jedi when...
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2 first come to Jabba's palace and they start having to work there and they look over and they're like, hey, is it fun here? And they see this dude get torn to pieces. He looks like a little gelfling of a droid and you think he's nobody, but it turns out, based on this comic book, he's somebody all right.
Yeah, and it's, you're feeling for a robot, which does the robot have feelings? You know what I mean? Like,
droids have feelings, Pete.
Well, you really do feel for droids in Star Wars. And
you should. Of course you do. Why? You'd act like you're like super emotional because you feel for these droids who are often main characters.
Yeah, I hear you, but they also are robots that don't have feelings, so it's a kind of a crazy thing.
You think R2 doesn't have feelings?
I don't know, man. He's a robot.
Wow, Pete, you're the coming AI singularity. You're in trouble, buddy.
Yeah, I know. My computer hates me for the things
you're a
I'm
first
saying
kill.
out loud.
You're top when your blender's gonna jump at you as soon as it becomes sentient.
I really like the idea of fleshing out just a one-shot thing in Star Wars and figuring out what's the story behind that. There's a lot of collections that are like that. It's not necessarily something we haven't seen before, but I think it's a really fun thing for the comics to do. I do think there's a little bit too much narration in this book. That was a little bit of a wall for me to get through it. But just in terms of pure story, I thought it was good. The art is good. The characterizations are good. And if you have ever wondered about that droid, I think it is a fun one-shot issue to pick up.
Yeah, this hit a little close to home for me because I just watched Jedi for the first time with my daughters, and they really liked it. And I saw that guy, and I was like, "Oh, if I was 4, I would be scared of seeing that droid get torn apart in front of my eyes." And then
your kids were like, "Dada, is there a one-shot comic book by Mark Guggenheim about this?"
Yeah, and boy, did I have a great aunt. Well, I was a king dad for that moment when I was like, "Yes, there is." Yes,
Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1 from DC Comics, written by Dennis Culver, art by Chris Burnham. This is a new take on Doom Patrol where they're trying to help out the freaks of the DC universe and being like, hey, instead of beating them up, why don't we help them, you idiots? Specifically Batman, you idiot. And in this book, they head to Gotham City specifically to deal with one of these freaks. This is basically as good as I wanted it to be based on the one-shot story that I think rolled out in one of those Lazarus Planet books, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Lazarus Planet. Justin rode the subway this morning.
Oh.
It'd be a huge tie-in.
Huge. So Chris Burnham art, phenomenal, perfect for a Doom Patrol book. Dennis Culver writing these weird characters the perfect way. The concept, great. I do have one qualm about it that I'm going to get to in a second, but I'd love to hear from you guys first.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, some amazing covers that we have here. What an ish. I loved all of it. The art, like you said, is unbelievable. The action, the stories. I mean, shit went down in this issue as well. Also, we got an amazing cameo by Peacemaker showing up. Plus Cliff saving the day by talking it out. I mean, this is just some creative shit happening all over the place, and I'm all for it. I also loved how the characters hated Gotham. Like, if Gotham is real, I think it would be one of those things where people probably wouldn't go there, So it was fun to kind of see their kind of takes on that as well. I had a great time with this issue. I think it was just such a great package. The combination of art and storytelling really met in an amazing place here for this comic.
Gotham is like going to like a town outside of Baltimore, right?
I wish I could disagree with you.
There it is. I love the Doom Patrol has always been very stoppable. Like, their whole thing is like they are stopped. So to see them functioning and sort of operating like a real super team, I'm curious if another shoe is going to drop here, because this reads like the characters we like succeeding and crushing it.
Yeah.
And their difference maker was that they didn't succeed and didn't crush it in fun and unique ways. So I wonder if we're going to twist back to that, or if this really is the Doom Patrol entering into the DC universe as just another group of fighters.
Well, and just to mention, we have Jane, aka Crazy Jane, as the new chief of the group, and I love that dynamic. I loved having Jane leading it. It's such an interesting thing. Here's my qualm.
Here we go.
Very specific to me, but we get a side story that's happening that's clearly going to tie in at some point.
Side story.
Monsieur Mala and the Brain as they're tracking down this other like creepy old dude. Big spoiler here. At the end of the issue, Monsieur Mala stomps on the Brain and ostensibly kills the Brain at the bidding of this other guy. I love Mala and the Brain. It's just like on a base comic book level.
Kind of like a Pinky and the Brain situation. Where you love them both
I love
together.
it. Like, just the base idea of like this giant murderous gorilla and this Brain in the jar love each other more than anything in the world. That's sort of like a only in comic books idea. And I know it's supposed to be this way, so emotionally it works, so it's supposed to, but watching Mala stomp on the Brain.
Yeah, it was hard. It was really
hard. It hurt
really
a lot.
bad.
And I was like, there's got to be an explanation for this. You've got to come back from this in some way. This is like if Midnighter was like, I got to kill Apollo. Sorry. Oops.
Yeah, it was rough.
It hurt to read, and I assume that's the point, and we're going to get more information as we go. But it definitely took me out of the book because I was like, yo, what are you doing? Too much.
It felt extreme, but I think we're going to get a twist on it. I don't think the Brain is gone. I think maybe the older guy is going to be the Brain or become the Brain or something like that. Because I think you're right, Alex.
I love them so much.
But that's why I think that goes back to my point where it's like, it feels like this is a Doom Patrol book that's being disguised as a mainstream superhero comic book, and all of the Doom Patrolness will leak out as this continues.
Totally. Otherwise, loved it. I don't necessarily have a problem with this so much as I want to see how it goes.
You want to
forward.
Read more, get more info.
Hurt my heart, man. It's Only Teenage Wasteland, #4 from Dark Horse Comics, written once again by Curt Pires.
It's the bottom half of the Pires pile.
Yeah.
Art by Jacobo Salcedo. This issue, we're getting a big wrap-up, I believe, of what's been going on as our teens find out exactly what's been going on in their teenage wasteland. What did you guys think about this one?
I like this a lot. This is a wrap-up of what I would say is the first arc, because we get a strong tease at the end to where everyone's going next. And I won't say where or what exactly is happening, because it definitely goes to sort of the mythology and the underlying science fiction nature of this story. But this issue is all about the relationships that are happening here and some romance. I really like the art style. There's some great spare panels here that I think are really cool and interesting, as we're learning a lot of, expositional stuff that could feel boring, but it's constantly spiced up with all the relationship stuff here.
Yeah, this is a crazy cool read. I love the art style, and it's such a good fit for the story. Interesting action. Kind of love the what the fuck moment at the end there. So this continues to be solid, and I'm looking forward to more.
And we get a double kiss.
You get the old double kiss.
That was great. That was a great page. This was a great series. I'm looking forward to more of it. Definitely pick up the collection if they're putting out one. Local Man, #2 from Image Comics, written by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs, art by Tony Fleecs. This book is basically what if a Wildstorm or 90s Image comic book, think Youngblood style hero, had to move back home. And he ends up having to work on, I don't want to say solve because he's not quite there yet, but the murder of his old enemy who also lives in his town. We also get backup stories that are basically parodies of old 90s, 2000s style Image comics. It was great.
I love this book. I had missed the first issue when it came out, so I read both 1 and 2 back to back this week and just loved it. Like the specificity of not just, because I think we've seen that story of like a big time superhero goes home and wackiness ensues. The specificity of it being like a Youngblood, like Rob Liefeld drawn style character, and all the sort of extremity that leads to, played off of some real good, detailed, small town living research and storytelling that happens here. Makes for just a story that really hits my sweet spot. I love both sides of this book.
Yeah, I agree. This is really awesome, very unique and cool. And I'm glad that floating robot got fucking destroyed at the end there, because that thing was driving me fucking nuts. There's some robot just pointing out all the things you're doing illegally would just be the fucking worst, man.
Pete, you're literally target number 1 for the AI. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm leaning into it now. I'm just saying, fucking bring it on.
Why?
Man.
Why? I praise our future robot overlords. I will be their flesh brother.
Yeah, that's a horrible idea, man.
Flesh brother Justin, go kill Pete LePage.
Yeah, you're going to just be their lackey, dude.
Well, if my one job is to kill you, I just know already how to do it.
Oh, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Discontinued Mountain Dew. You're probably already drinking it.
Daredevil #9 from Marvel, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Manuel Garcia. In this issue, we're going to get
just thinking about that is so sad. I'm sorry.
Big twists are going on here. We've been following Daredevil as he and Elektra have been building up their army to take on the Hand and the Punisher. They seemed kind of successful in the last issue, but everything takes a turn here for the way worse.
Pete, what a lifelong
well, you know, what's
dream.
Fucked up
wait,
no. You brought up discontinuing Mountain Dew, and then you fucking go right into this. I'm already sad and in a bad place. You don't have to.
It says it in our rundown. Talk about discontinued Mountain Dew, then talk about Daredevil #9.
Stop saying that,
because that dye turns toxic
this morning.
The code red dye turns toxic. Yellow #5 is right into your bones after a while. Yeah. But here, let me just say.
By the way, Yellow #5, my favorite Lou Bega song. Go ahead.
oh man, that's good stuff. Pete, though, you must have loved this. This is a lifelong dream of yours, where Foggy turns straight up into Fog. Like, it's Foggy becoming his final form, actual Fog.
Go fuck yourself, man. You saw his face out like when Foggy turned into Fog. That was awful, man. It was also tough to see Sticko.
That's a funny sentence when you say it that way.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it was very sad, and I know, Pete, you are a huge Foggy fan. So not just is Foggy dead, he was like, Foggy's been dead for quite some time. This has been a Foggy prank. He got Foggy punked here, and that was no way to do it.
Punked in the fog,
This is
pretended to be Foggy.
I mean, as always, a great issue of this. Chip Zdarsky, great. Yeah. The art by Manuel Garcia, great. But this was such an insane turn for the negative after the first 8 issues of this title. It really threw me for a loop. Just all of this stuff that they've been holding on to, where it's like, oh yeah, everybody's leaving because they're bummed out about what you did last issue to attack the Punisher in the Hand. Also, not only that, but Foggy has been dead for a very long time. Stick has been dead for a very long time. All of this, you've been manipulated this entire time. Sorry, Daredevil. Also, we're going to bomb your private island. Oops. And we should expect this. We should expect this with Daredevil, because Daredevil's MO is he is never happy and things always get worse for him. But it's a lot in this issue.
The next issue page is Daredevil on his knees going like, no! How many, if you had to count, how many next issue or covers of Daredevil are him on his knees being like, why do I do this?
Well, we're
I
at
should
issue
be better
9,
to
so
my
I would
friends.
say
Why
10,
won't I
11,
learn from my
and 12.
mistakes?
Yeah. Every time, man. That Daredevil. And also in this issue, biggest of all, he's like, well, God's abandoned me.
Yeah. That was like, God died when we were mean to Jesus. I was like, yo, like, cool it. Crazy thoughts. And I want to also take this moment to announce, this is crazy, this is happening, but I pitched a Foggy in Hell series to Marvel, and they bought it. They bought it. They want to see they want to see 18 issues, matches the Netflix series of Foggy just being roasted on a spit in hell for the full brunt of it. I'm so sorry,
just
Pete.
To be clear, when we're talking about the spit, it's through his asshole and out his mouth.
Ah,
right?
come on, man.
That's the way Foggy wanted it.
I heard in the trades, Eldon Henson is signed on for this, right? He's not doing Daredevil Born Again, but he's doing Foggy dead for the first time.
It's photorealistic. We're shooting it all on film. It's going to be great. Pete, I'm dedicating the first issue to you.
Yeah, and Eldon Henson has gotten first full method, so he's like, roast me, baby.
Yeah, he's getting
that was his quote in Deadline.
Yeah, Deadline Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood.
Deadline Hollywood.
Dark Knights of Steel, number 10 from DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor, art by Putri. In this issue, we're dealing with the big revelation of the last issue that the folks behind all of this are the White Martians. We got the reveal that I believe it was Alfred is Martian Manhunter.
Jones.
Yeah, there you go.
John Jones.
So this medieval version of the DC universe is going through some big changes here. We got a lot of answers in this issue. What'd you think about this?
This continues to be a lot of fun. I really love the art, kind of style to it, the old timiness, and you get a talking dragon in here. That's a great time. Yeah, I think this is just continues to be such a great, fun experience.
Alfred, the Foggy of Batman, exposed. We had some trouble here, but we moved through it, and I like this series a lot. They continue to make turns. I mean, it's Tom Taylor, someone who have we not praised him enough on this podcast? So just great to see another deepening story that he's at the helm.
Tom Taylor. You said Tom King.
I said Tom Tyler. Tom King. Tom Taylor.
Yeah. You said something.
I thought you said Tom Taylor.
I think I said Tom Taylor.
You said the correct thing, and there you go. The Approach, number 5 from Boom Studios, written by Jeremy Hahn and Jason A. Hurley, art by Jesus Hervas and Leah Caballero. In this issue, we are wrapping up the story of a gigantic Lovecraftian monster attacking an airport in the middle of a snowstorm. Things go predictably bad here, and maybe to worse. I know we've been really enjoying the tension of this series and the art in particular. How do you feel it wrapped up?
It's a great 80s movie in a comic book form. If you've been chasing that sort of high, it's right here for you. I like the last couple pages. twist at the end, and it's a good story where a lot of people died, but some characters lived, and I like the ones that made it through.
Yeah, there's some great monster action here. Intense, cool ending. I love the last panel. The monster's creepy in all the right ways, and the art's super tight bananas.
Totally agree. Great book.
$50.
Again, I think this is a good one to pick up and trade if you missed it. Hellboy in Love, #4 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Christopher Golden, art by Matt Smith. In this issue, and a very interesting structure for this book, where they're having 2-issue arcs following this romance between Hellboy and this human woman. Here we wrap up this evil puppet arc, which I know Pete doesn't like evil puppets, so I'm curious to hear from him. And by the end, maybe things start to heat up with Hellboy and this woman. Pete, what did you think about this?
Well, first off, it's kind of weird to see Hellboy in Love, but the kind of two-dimensional puppet thing they kind of get stuck in for a little bit was fantastic. I was worried it was going to get like meta and weird, where they're like kind of stuck in a comic book while we're reading a comic book, but I think they did it really well, and it was kind of a fun moment. Hellboy isn't always that kind of light and enjoyable. Sometimes it's kind of dark and brooding, so this kind of like him having kind of light, fun adventures where he turns into two-dimensional kind of things is interesting. Love the art style. I'm not sure I'm buying them as a couple yet, but I'm having a blast with this book.
Did you read the last page?
Yeah, I did.
She takes off her hat, man.
Yeah,
Oof.
I know.
Anyway, once that hat comes off, Hellboy's horns are shaved, but he seemed awful horny in that last page. I like this as well. I thought it was a fun adventure. I thought there would be more of a romance to it, and we got a little bit of that. So I'm looking forward. Are we getting more of this? Will the romance continue?
I think there's at least one more issue. I will say, correct me if I'm wrong, at the beginning of this issue, we get not flashback, but we jump over to Liz and Abe Sapien, right? At the beginning of the issue?
Yeah, they're hanging out.
Yeah.
I know we talk about this all the time, but every single time I read one of these things, I'm like, come on! Give me a real, forward-looking adventure. Like, I love seeing them, and I love seeing what they're thinking while this is going on. I know their multiple characters are dead and in different places and whatever, but, Mike Mignola, please come back. You are just teasing so much with all this stuff. I'm dying here. My children are dying. Give me more Hellboy modern adventure.
And it's got to be building up to something.
Yeah.
Is it more Hellboy in the forward-looking present universe? Maybe.
They got to do it at some point. It's driving me crazy. Invincible Iron Man #4 from Marvel, written by Jerry Dugan, art by Juan Gary. We are finally finding out who has been torturing Tony Stark. We actually found this out, I believe, the last issue, is this character Fei Long, who had previously tangled with the X-Men. In this issue, Iron Man wrecks this dude. Oh my God. In a absolutely brutal way, destroys him for the fact that he's killed several of his friends. But the interesting thing beyond this issue is that it is building up to a big event called Fall of X that is going to be happening over the summer, that is going to have Fei Long as the villain, taking on both Iron Man and the X-Men, written by Jerry Dugan. So we're getting the first tease of it here. What do you guys think about this issue?
I really like this as a setup. It feels like a really long series of breadcrumbs we're going to follow into that event. Maybe we're not going to get too much more of that here, but I love the idea that Iron Man fights him for a while and then it eventually just leads into that event in the summer. I also like Iron Man. There's just some great Iron Man moments. The fight in the fight, at the end, him floating in space and then going to see, spoiler, the White Queen on the last page, I thought was really cool. It feels like this Iron Man book has a different tone than so many that have come before, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't excited when I was like, oh, you're going to team up with the White Queen, but interesting ending. I also really like the She-Hulk appearance in the kind of second part there.
Great lawyering.
Yeah, I think this is great art, interesting story. Love all the action and adventure. So yeah, solid.
Gotham City, Year 1, number 6 from DC Comics, written by Tom King, art by Phil Hester. We are wrapping up the series that has been telling a noir story from back in the day in Gotham City. We get it all laid out here, exactly what's been going on, all of the twists with Batman's grandparents and what happened with them back in the day, thanks to Slam Bradley, who is essentially on his deathbed in a hospital, telling Batman the story. Justin, you're laughing. What's up?
First off, this is a fucked up story to tell Batman on your deathbed. If you're like, hey, man, hey, thanks for coming. These are my last words, and I want to die talking to you, a guy in the spandex. Your grandparents were fucked up. Here's what happened. Like, it's a wild story. And I really like this comic. I thought that the reveals here that sort of pay off the title of Gotham City Year 1, setting up a lot of the I guess the architecture of some of the Batman mythos. Like, we get the reveal that the Batcave was Bruce Wayne's grandfather's sex cave.
Yeah, fuck palace is what I would call it.
So it's like if Bruce had fallen in there and just seen a bunch of like Victoria's Secret catalogs, he'd be lingerie man, and it'd be a whole different world we'd be in.
Yeah, he could be used condom man or something like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it would have been a different Christopher Nolan series, but we would have probably watched it.
I got to tell you, Phil Hester's art, great. Perfect for this book. Tom King writing a totally fine mystery. This is like a little too much for me in terms of, Batman's grandparents are really messed up. What do you think? And that sex cave was the pinnacle of it for me, where it was like the Batcave was the Batcave. It was the fuck cave where Batman's grandfather used to bring ladies and used to like cheat on his wife. I know that's not how Tom King means it. Like, that's not, I understand from his other writing, he's not trying to be Mark Millar and he's not trying to be edgy, but this is the closest that Tom King, in terms of execution and plot, has come to being Millar edgy, and I don't love it.
Well, here's the thing. I understand why you make that comparison, but I don't think it's meant to be that. It's not meant to be like, look, this is forever what the Batcave is going forward. I think the point is, like, in this world of like salacious underbelly of Gotham City, using these elements, here's how we would play it out. And honestly, if you go in any cave, people are fucking.
Carlsbad taverns?
No. Sometimes it's a bear hibernating. All right.
They're also having sex. I put the bat in Carlsbad, so you don't even watch out. You watch out when you go.
There's the whole premise to this was a little too much to begin with. This whole kind of like, you thought these people were cool, but they're totally not. It was just like a weird path to go down.
Well, but we never thought they were cool. These are people we haven't really seen before, and from the jump in this series, because we talked about it a lot, about how, like, where's this going? It just seems like bad people doing bad things to each other. So, like, I don't think it was meant to even tarnish the Wayne family per se.
But it is tarnishing the Wayne family.
But it doesn't tarnish Thomas and Martha. I mean, not to contradict you, I think
it's their parents, right?
The bigger thing, though, is exactly what you were saying at the beginning when we were first talking about this, Justin, is the idea of Slam Bradley at the end being like, well, now you know the story. And, like, what does Batman do with that? Being like, I laid all of this out for you. I guess the point is that Gotham City has always had this seededness and corruption, even in the Wayne family, that we look as saints. And I assume that's the idea here. But in terms of execution, it comes out that this old dude is like, yeah, I fucked your grandma and your grandfather fucked a bunch of other people in your game. Now I'm dead. I don't know.
Thanks, Slam, for the story. Finally, something to brood about for old Batman.
Yeah, you're gonna eat that Jello? What's going on?
Oh, you died? You just died? Okay, now I feel weird.
5-minute rule of Jello's mine.
Batman.
Batman says to no one. Batman
looks around.
5 minutes. Let me say, Pete, 5 minute rule really gives you a lot of time on the clock. Yeah. You drop a piece of salami on the ground, you're like, all right, 4 minutes, 59 seconds, and I'm going to eat that.
Siri, start a timer for 5 minutes. Okay, what do you want this timer to be about?
Do you wait for someone else to claim?
Dude, somebody listening to this podcast who has Siri just kind of got effed by that. You saying that. They're like,
Alexa, buy Chips Ahoy.
Wow.
You're an awful person.
Here's another option. The top result is chip.
Stop, get out of here.
Alexa, stop.
Go to bed, Alexa.
Bloodstained Teeth, number 10 from Image Comics, written by Christian Warren, art by Patrick Reynolds. In this issue, we're again getting like a big finale to this, I believe, where our vampire, who has been tasked with killing all of the vampires he created, finally it comes down to a fight between him and this organization who has sent him to kill them. Gorgeous last issue of this book. Like I love Christian Warren's writing, this tied up in big action fashion. Love what he did here, but Patrick Reynolds' art, man, particularly like that last page.
Yeah. Super tripped out bananas in all the right ways. It's just so absolutely gorgeous, like you're saying, just so well done. And I love this kind of like, this is a very touching, kind of cool story. Love the ending. And this, even vampires got to be like, you know what? You humans are our food, but fucking David Bowie was the shit, bro.
Yeah. I feel like, though, the best way to read this comic is to have it be rolled on with glue onto a abandoned building in LA and just walk down the street reading it. That's the vibe I get from this whole thing.
Wow.
I know you're joking, but that would be super sweet, and I would love that. This book was 100% like glam rock 80s style. That's exactly
West Coast. What 100%. It's great.
I love it. It's like the way you describe that. Like if you went into like an art installation or whatever and got to kind of like experience it that way, it'd be
cool. And I know you were making a joke, but legitimately, that's a great idea.
I don't know. I meant to. I imagined it that way. Venice Beach, put it up on the walls. Let's go.
Be so
absolutely. Cool. This book was great. This is another one you definitely should check out in trade if you missed it in single issues. Deadpool number 5 from Marvel, written by Alyssa Wong, art by Martin Cocchello. After last issue brought back Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, spoiler here, but they dispatched with him very quickly in this issue in a very funny way.
Agreed.
This is a battle royale here as we finish off the first arc and kick into the second arc. I'm having a lot of fun reading this book.
I agree. It's really a lot of fun, and they do a good job of capturing the Deadpool tone in such a way. The balance of like comedy and mischief and violence. I think that they do a really great job. And the Valentine moments are adorable.
It's interesting to me how the Deadpool comic has changed. Like it used to be sort of all jokes, all like meta. I feel like now it's been pulled back a little bit. To your point, Pete, like I think the tone is still there. But this is a straight up superhero comic. This is like a fight, and Deadpool is occasionally being funny and sort of like a little bit removed from it. But this is the most I think he's been threatened. He's got this symbiote inside of him, and he seems a little scared throughout the issue. So I was surprised by how this is like a different page for Deadpool a little bit.
But good stuff and good art. Yeah. Dead Seas, number 4 from IDW, written by Kevin Scott, art by Nick Brokenshire. This is following a jailbreak, kind of, I guess we could call it, on a ship that is filled with ghosts, specifically one very large baby-headed ghost that is trying to bring down.
Stop it.
Pete Mama.
It's so creepy, that fucking baby ghost thing. It really freaks me the fuck out.
Mama.
Justin, what do you think about this one?
This, I like this all right. It's, this one sort of feels like the 80s movie stuff I was talking about a little bit earlier, but it feels like a more B movie, a less popular
like B movie.
like Jerry Seinfeld's B movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it does feel, it feels like it has that nostalgia. It has that little bit of a cheesiness to it. It just feels a little wobbly on the edges as it's going forward.
Huh. Yeah, I can understand a little bit of what you're saying there, but I just think that like I thought the ending was really great and such a like, you know, having that monster with that line, like, "We waiting for me?" Like, just so creepy. I love what they're doing with the monsters in this book, and the art style is so creepy. It really kind of gets to you.
Planet Hulk Worldbreaker #5 from Marvel, written by Greg Pak, art by Manuel Garcia. This is the final issue of this book as a pseudo-sequel to, not pseudo-sequel, actual sequel to Planet Hulk, wrapping up another fight on Sakaar. Pete!
Hey, what's up? Thanks.
Hi, how are you?
Acknowledging me. Oh, it's doing great. Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, Alex. You didn't earn $50 from Dave's Transition Barn on that one.
Greg Pak, man, touching ending. Like, really just landed such a sweet ending, and we got kind of flashback to his original series there, and I thought that really tied in nicely. You know, the Hulk is a lot of things, but a hero for sure. So this was just such a kind of cool homage to the Hulk as a hero and the things that he sacrifices and fights for. I thought it was very beautiful, and Greg Pak is obviously close to this character, and it shows.
Old Man Logan for Old Man Hulk. Old Man Hulk saves the day.
Well said. Stargirl, The Lost Children #5 from DC Comics, written by Jeff Johns, art by Todd Knock, picking up at the cliffhanger of the last issue, where we found out that Our Man, the robotic version, is the one behind stealing all of these sidekicks out of time, seemingly. We follow up with that with a big fight scene issue. I continue to really enjoy this series. I think this is continuing the story of Stargirl very well, despite all of the different elements and characters that are being thrown in. It's still very clear what's going on in terms of the story, which is hard to do. But how are you guys feeling about it?
I love how the art really reflects the sort of bright, shiny outlook of the sidekicks. It does such a great job of letting us be with them and sort of almost see the world through their eyes, as we have these villains that are like a little bit scary, a little bit like sort of mysterious, stocky superhero villains that they are about to confront. It's just, I think Jeff Johns, you know, sometimes gets a little caught up in the mythology. This is just a story where it's really sticking with the premise, where we get to really be in the story right where I feel like he wants us to be the whole time.
Yeah, I think this has like a really fun, great last page, cool build to big action to come. I love the art and the tone of it. It kind of has a Captain Bucky O'Hare style to it that I very much relate to. Great team up action though.
Wow, it reminds me of Legionnaires, the series that I liked back in the day in the 90s that the Dodsons drew.
I would say it reminds me more of Captain Bucky O'Hare.
Oh, great call. Nice reference, bro.
No problem. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, #5 from Image Comics, written by Jason Aaron, art by Alexandra Tefengi. At the end of the last issue, Maceo, one of our two main characters, was captured by the evil Boy Scouts at the end of the world. In this issue, will the girl that he met come and save him?
Aww.
Maybe. But continues to be a insanely high stakes romance book.
Yeah.
I love this title. I love the art. It's funny and harrowing in equal measure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the super adorable moment there that kind of happens at the end there, I don't want to give away, but it's twisted and messed up, but it's really fun and also sweet. I feel like they do a great job of juggling a lot of things in this kind of post-apocalyptic world, and the art is super tight bananas.
I also really like this book. It's weird. The narrative, the story points are weird and funny, and it feels like when you are in love when you're young, where you're looking back and you're like, that was goofy. We had this funny, goofy, adventure together as a date. And then we have the counterpoint where it's like this dark, tortured, older version of one of our characters. And that's been running through each issue, and we get to see sort of the aftermath of this romance that we're just getting the first window into. And it's really cool. I'm curious how these two very different styles of person and storytelling are going to meet in the middle at some point.
100%. And if you would like to support our podcast and all the podcasts we do, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast on YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about comic books. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on TikTok and Instagram, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the comic book shop.
Yeah, good night. I'd like to tighten up these bananas if I could.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we had this magical, tripped out Doctor Strange. We had this magical, tripped out Doctor Strange story before this. And so this isn't as like amazing or as visually entertaining as that was, although the art on this is super tight bananas. It's just a little different. We came from this like really kind of stylized, interesting, unique look.
Oh, you're talking about the Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, which is
you're goddamn right I am. Yes,
a different book, not in this continuity. It's not telling the same story.
It's still Doctor Strange book. Shut the fuck up then.
Sure, but it doesn't take place in the correct order. That is something that takes place earlier in the timeline.
Okay.
But I mean, I get it. Pete, you really liked that book because it was super trippy. This is definitely more like sort of mainstream, great superheroic Doctor Strange stuff. So it's a slightly different flavor, but it takes a lot of flavors to make the great stew that is our stack.
Yeah, I hear it. It's just when you're
the weekly stew.
Yeah, it's just when you're, you really love something and then they change it a little bit. You can have some feelings about it. It's okay.
Well, that's like being mad if, like, say, the fall sunrise was setting and you were like, no, the sun's gone. What do we do? It's dark.
I yell at the sun every night when it goes down.
I know. Honestly, we're very, very worried about you.
Yeah, it's a little more like if there were two unrelated sunrises and you were like, what the fuck? There's this sunrise over here and it doesn't connect to this sunrise? This sucks.
Good thing Pete didn't grow up on Tatooine.
Here's my one qualm about this book is I really liked it. Well, no. I thought the art was really good. I thought the writing was really good. But I spent a lot. I'm going to agree with Pete now. I spent a lot of the time of this book being like, what's the take, though? We've seen this before. It felt like an extension in particular of Donny Cates' run to me. But 3/4 of the way through the book, some stuff starts to happen that really changes up the situation, throws in a mystery, throws in some riffs, and I'm glad they got to that point because I was enjoying it. I liked it as a Doctor Strange book, but with a number one, I want to take as strong as Scarlet Witch that feels like something that is wholly new that I am reading.
Well,
Justin,
let me throw this out.
Wait, before you Justin, let's just sit in this moment a little bit, Alex agrees with me and he disagrees with you. Let's just sit here for a little bit longer. It's nice.
It's very funny that a moment ago we were like, isn't it crazy how Pete screams at the sun? And Alex immediately was like, yes, and I agree with this madman. So I feel like I'm sitting pretty and then non-screaming at the nighttime guy. But let me just respond, because what I love about Jed MacKay's writing in particular is the characterization. Like the Black Cat book that he just ran for years on wasn't like super premise heavy, but it was just like great storytelling from a plot narrative point of view and great character work in each issue, in each panel. And so like that's what I'm looking forward to here. Something where so many comics are like big premise and then that's sort of the whole engine. And Jed MacKay is specifically good at the opposite of that. So I'm here for that.
Well, let's talk about another character-driven book, Batman, One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul, #1 from DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor, art by Ivan Reis. Like the rest of these books, this is exploring one of Batman's villains. This is, I felt, a surprisingly more traditional Ra's al Ghul tale, talking about the Lazarus pits, talking about the environment and man's destruction of it. You can get a classic shirt-off Batman sword fight with Ra's al Ghul going on here, very reminiscent of the Neil Adams stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
What you guys think
Batman
about this?
animated series?
Batman animated
Yeah,
series. What you guys
exactly.
think about this one?
This, I continue to love these One Bad Day stories. They're really fun. They make some big choices. I think this was a very interesting take on someone who's been around for a while, you know, and I just thought it was, very unique and cool, and they had amazing covers for this. I just think the art was super type bananas, and I've been loving these collection of stories here. This is just really cool.
I agree. Ivan's art is great here. Really good matchup. Again, this is not a bad day. This is actually a great day. Ra's has a great day in this book.
Yeah, but when he's having a great day, we're having a bad day.
That depends on your take on the plot.
Here's
Well,
what I
if
take,
I'm one
because
of the
we've been-
27 people killed, yeah, I'm going to say it's a bad day.
Oh, in the DC universe, you're a
I think
evil
the-
multi-billionaire?
no, the
That's
bad
what you're saying,
day-
Pete?
The bad day is his dog dies, right? Like, I know that sounds like
isn't
a joke,
John
but
Wick.
that's legitimately what happens. Is this wolf or dog or whatever that he has
Yeah,
raised
it's a
for really
fucking
long
wolf,
time.
man. It's not just a regular dog.
Ah, woo! It's a wolf man, right?
Yeah. A
Wolfman
wolf is
Jack?
just
I don't know.
a wolf is just a dog who's having one bad day.
One
Right?
bad day, a wolf.
My dog's one bad day away from straight up killing me.
Oh man, don't you talk shit about Pip, 'cause Pip don't slip, bro.
Punisher has a dog and a wolf chained up on a roof on a chimney, and he's like, "You two, you're one bad day away."
Which
from
one
me.
do you feed? Which one do you feed?
Exactly.
We have a bunch of things going on here. Lots of metaphors and some posters and T-shirts. I'm the Punisher. Anyway, this is a good book.
And in those moments, that's when I, the Punisher, was carrying you down the beach. That's those
Only one
footprints.
set of
That's why there's boot prints on that beach, bro.
And when I looked down, I saw a line of bullets, and that's when I knew I was shooting you.
I was shooting the ground and hovering a little bit. I was shooting so many
So
bullets.
like
That's
hopping
what I
up a
was
little
doing.
bit. It wasn't flying necessarily, but I do
Hoisted
that
by
now.
my own petard. What I was going to say about the what
Oh, were you
are
going to say something about this book, or did you want to?
No, I actually like this story. I thought this is a good book. The moral complication of it, I thought, was really cool. Really, like this. If you're a Damian Wayne fan, not that he's in this a ton,
Also,
but it's sort of
Batman-
like his two poles.
Batman kind of loses in this issue. It's a rare loss for Batman.
He has one bad day. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Now, guys, are you get access to a Lazarus pit? You jumping in there every couple weeks?
I was thinking about that while I was reading it, and 100% definitely.
Yeah.
Justin, if you're going to be there every time I come out to tell me everything's going to be okay, it seems like it'll be worth it.
I'll be there. I'll be in the pool with you. We'll have our bathing suits on, a beach ball. Hey, Pete, jump in the last pit. Let's heal up a little bit. What's the weakest, like, what's the least sick you'd be to jump? Like, you got a sniffle, you're like, I gotta jump in
Jump
the
in
Lazarus
there.
floor.
I'll tell you
Stub
what,
your toe.
earlier today, and this is a true
Paper
story,
cut.
I got locked in the bathroom for 15 minutes down here in my basement. 100%, if there was a Lazarus pit outside, I'd be like, I'm getting in that for a while.
Just jump in the
Wait.
Lazarus toilet that you have.
Wait, because you had 15 minutes of inconvenience? You were just
Oh, my
going to kill
God.
yourself?
I was going nuts, man. I almost tore the door down. I literally physically ripped the door handle off of the door.
All right,
so I could
She-Hulk.
get out.
And that's what locked you in? Or
No,
you later?
It's a whole story. I don't want to get into it. We're
seems like it.
we're only
Sounds like
two.
Was
two
one of your
titles in.
kids like to lock you while you were in there?
No, nobody else was home, and my phone was outside the bathroom. So
There it is. That's the real thing.
and I was going feral. I was like, there was a wolf and a dog inside of me, and they were one bad day away from becoming each other. Can we move on to the next book? The Neighbors, #1 from Boom Studios, written by Jude Ellison S. Doyle, art by Letizia Catanici. This is perfect for fans of James Tynan's work in particular. It's very reminiscent of Something is Killing the Children in terms of the art style. It's also very reminiscent of The Closet in terms of the content of the book. This is about a family that moves to a new neighborhood where all the neighbors super weird, super terrifying, horrible things are going on. There's some interesting stuff going on in terms of how trans issues affect a family because one of the partners in a marriage, they're moving, presumably because one of them came out as trans. It's affecting the kids in different ways. The horror ramps up very quickly over the course of this issue. I love the art style. Like I said, if you're a fan of either of those books, I think you're really going to dig this one as well.
Yeah, the tone, you're spot on. This is a very James Tynion style book, down to the great sort of twist, I guess, at the end. There's a sort of a double twist where something happens and then there's a couple words that are used that really twist it again, and I thought that was really well done. Art is great. The way that the panels, the art goes into like sort of details on hands and snakes and stuff, just really nice horror. Cinematic horror stuff here.
Yeah, when I read this and I got to the end, I was like, nope, no, this is too fucking scary. This is scary as fuck. No fucking way. This is.
That's why you jumped in the Lazarus kiddie pool out in front of your house.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no fucking way. This is too scary. And it's great. It's a great kind of scary that's very impressive, but I could not deal with it. It was.
It's definitely a legitimately scary book, and I thought of you, Pete, while I was reading it because I knew that was going to be your reaction. It's a little too much for you, so, and I don't mean this dismissively. If you are a scaredy cat like Pete, this is not the book for you, but for everybody else, great stuff. Very excited to read
Scaredy
more.
kitty. I said anytime I read a comic book that's too scary for Pete, I send him an edible arrangement.
Thanks, man. I wish that was true.
Punisher number 10 from Marvel, written by Jason Aaron, art by Jesus Saez and Paul Azaceta. The Punisher is continuing to rise or fall, depending on how you look at it, to become the avatar of the Beast. Meanwhile, Maria, his wife, who's back to life, is finding out a lot more about what's going on in the background.
Maria,
Pete,
his wife?
Pete, take it away, other than the singing, please.
This is just going so hard and is so much fun. There's so many amazing badass moments. Also, the Avengers having the worst bad timing awards for showing up as soon as the Punisher goes, I'm quitting, I'm done. I was like, what? Now you guys show up after he's like fucking done? But it should be interesting to see where it goes from there. Where they were like, it's a bad day if you're one of the worst people in the world, was just great. I just started clapping. I was having so much fun with this book. It's really interesting. So we're getting to know the Punisher a lot in this, as well as his wife and their connection and all of that. It's very interesting. This is very cool. I'm just having a blast. Thank you, Jason Aaron. Thank you.
I love the way the art style switched from the present sort of scarier, grittier story. Or it's actually less gritty, I feel like. The more darker reds and blacks of the present day and the flashbacks, which are grainier and whatnot, looking at the Punisher's past. Very cool. And this is actually secretly, the Punisher isn't, we're talking about him, but we're not really riding with him. This is really a Maria story, and we're really getting to see her and her take. And I love the way that she sort of likes Frank's descent into becoming the Punisher, as we're learning, and she's actually more like him than I think we've ever thought, a character that was only ever murdered and never explored. So to actually do that in such an interesting way, I think is excellent. And I gotta say, to have like Cap, Black Widow, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, and Moon Knight show up and be like, hey, let's get the gun guy, he's being a dick. And the Punisher is more super jacked, overpowered than ever. They're gonna murder these two. Moon Knight it's done. Especially his series is mediocre. Get him out. He's dead.
Yeah,
great stuff. First off, don't just say things his series is mediocre. Fuck you for bringing that up.
Okay, so you want the Moon Knight to kill Punisher?
No, I'm just saying you don't have to bring that up. That's not relevant.
I like how every issue you bring up a new matchup for Pete to hurt his feelings.
I'm not trying to. I don't know. I'm trying to hurt his feelings.
No, you're just
I'm not trying to. Yeah. Okay, you're God.
Oh, Pete, you really want the Punisher to kill your mom? That's what you want, Pete?
Nope.
Your mom is going to show up next issue, and I guess you want your mom to kill the Punisher, or vice versa. You're going to have to make a decision.
That's going to be
milestone.
Now he's being mean.
Me, I'm being mean. Milestone 30th Anniversary Special #1 from DC Comics, written by Evan Narcisse, Nicholas Draper-Ivy, Stephanie Williams, and Jeffrey Thorne. Art by Atagun Ilhan. Crisscross, Nicholas Draper-Ivy, Yasmin Flores Montinez, and Sean Damian Hill. This is exactly what it sounds like, a series of stories that loop into various points in the Milestone history, some that have existed, some that have never existed, that they're teasing things going forward. A lot of it all hooked around Static in particular. Pete, I know you're the big Milestone fan on the podcast. What did you think about this?
This was awesome. First off, amazing covers, just really such a cool collection of stories. Dexter Vines is killing it. I love the feel of the art. It has this kind of like up 80s feel, but it's updated a little bit more. I also really love the Batman Beyond and Static story that we got in this. This was such a cool... I just feel like this is such a great collection of comics and had such a not only interesting story, but an artistic story to tell.
Yeah, agree. Great variety in the stories, but that Static Beyond story I thought was so good. Yeah. Definitely a fave, and the art that really stuck to the Batman Beyond stuff, but really brought Static in, I thought was super cool.
It really worked.
I agree. Just speaking as not a Milestone fan, the first story is very much like Crisis on Infinite Milestone Earths, bringing them all together. That was a very deep dive for me, somebody who doesn't know much about the Milestone stuff. So I was a little worried that the rest of the book was going to be like that, just like for hardcore fans only. But it's not. Like we're saying, the rest of the stories are very fun, very accessible, and with some great art throughout. So it's a good collection. And this is such a little thing, but just structurally, DC doesn't do this enough. They do this for the Milestone books. They have title pages between everything where they give the credits of everybody and they give a little bit of a recap. And I appreciate that so much. We read so many comics to just have that little bit of, oh, okay, this is what this is about, and then go into it. I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
Dead Romans #1 from Image Comics, written by Fred Kennedy, art by Nick Marinkov. And do you think this has something to do with Dead Kennedys? Because you got Dead Romans and Fred Kennedy. I feel like there's a connection there.
Stop.
Yeah, strong.
I mean, musically, sweet shout out, but other than that, you go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's your conspiracy theory. Wow,
you're a real F-bomb dropper this episode, Pete. What did you think about this book?
Well, I think it's worth it for the art alone. I mean, you got some amazing colors, shapes. Love the blocking.
So many shapes.
Oh my god!
Honestly, most of this comic is shapes.
Hey, no, fuck yourself, because they do like this interesting thing where it's like people become like more blocky in the background and different stuff, and I think it's a cool stylized choice that works really well.
I have a question for you, Pete. When you say it's worth it for the art alone, does that mean, and this is a very real question, does that mean you didn't like the story for real, or you didn't connect as much with that?
Well, no, it means different things for different stories. For this, I was just so impressed with the artwork because we see so many comic book and a lot of superhero kind of driven stuff. So to see characters that were blockier and different shapes and like different colors kind of spurting out, it really makes a huge difference. And someone who's reading a lot of similar stuff, it really sticks out. So I just really want to tip my hat to it and say, as someone who reads a lot of comics, when you get something that's new and exciting, it makes it just so much more refreshing and nicer to add to your kind of pull list, you know?
Great. And follow-up question, when you say super tight bananas, does that mean you're being held hostage and that's a cry for help where you're like, please come rescue me?
No.
Because I'm trapped here.
I'm just so impressed with the art. It's just...
Well, I'm going to agree with Pete again. I do think the art was very good in this book. To give you a little sense of the story, it is about a general, I guess, in the Roman army who is in love with a slave. He keeps promising her that maybe she's going to be his queen someday if he ever becomes king. Of course, they get attacked. They get thrown apart. She's left alone. Presumably, the story is going to be her growing up to be a badass and fighting her way back to him or something like that while he fights his way back to her. I did feel like the writing was a little convoluted in this first issue.
Yeah,
Justin?
I think it was just it lacked a little clarity of what was happening. I feel like, especially in the beginning, but I do like the sort of plot that they've laid out. Like, I think it is interesting. I would like to see both of them. Our general sort of dealing with the bureaucracy of his fight because they're in like Europe basically, up in Germany, what would be later become Germany, out of their normal area. So it has the opportunity to go in a lot of different directions. And so I'm down to keep reading this.
Yeah, same. Definitely want to check out a second issue now that they've set up the situation. Let's talk about She-Hulk number 11 from Marvel.
Boy.
Written by
Here
Rainbow Rowell, art by Andres Genolet. This is a big-time ship issue for She-Hulk and Jack of Hearts. They can't really touch anymore because Jack of Hearts is now radioactive again. She-Hulk still really wants to be with him. Jack of Hearts is clearly stepping back. We've talked about this before.
Heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking. The two of them together are just magic. And to see this awkward kind of dinner that doesn't work and has us as well as them questioning the relationship is heartbreaking. And then some fucking new guy comes in. Just all fucking
some
cool.
Sexy gentleman thief comes in who I think is going to present another option for She-Hulk.
I'm worried about it because I'm shipping this other relationship, and now this new guy shows up and he's throwing off his mask and he doesn't care. And oh man!
And you saw him throw his mask off. So you were like, "That guy's good looking. That's a problem." That's what you thought, right, Pete? As a rom-com expert, like legit, you're a rom-com expert. You watch more rom-coms than anyone I know.
Yeah, that's a sign when it's like something gone awry, and all of a sudden two people who maybe shouldn't be connecting all of a sudden are connecting and looking to each other's eyes. It's dangerous.
I mean, Jack said, "I'll save you some garlic bread," and that would be enough to have me coming home to him.
You're goddamn right, buddy. I hear you.
I love the fact, and this hasn't been necessarily every issue because we had some big Hulk fights going on previously, I think an issue or two back, but when is the last time or ever we've gotten a pure romance comic from Marvel? The entire time we've been talking about comics. Love this. Love
also,
this.
Even when they launched their romance comics like line, it was all a bunch of like fucked up stuff that kept happening. It was like, oh, okay, not what you sold me. So it is really nice. And also the front half of this book is like a superhero fight club, which is fun. Great character choices. Volcana, a character we don't ever really see much of. Like, this is all fun, and then you get into the real plucking the heartstrings, right, Pete?
What's great about She-Hulk is she is such a great character. There's all this great kind of violence and action you can do with her, but also the small moments with her are just so powerful, and you feel them. I feel like there's such a great range with her, and I think they're using her in a great way, especially in this title. And it's heartbreaking. The most kind of heartfelt stuff are just these small moments in this horrible date, and you just really feel it, man.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out. If you are enjoying this book, last night I read, and this is an older book, but a book called Pumpkinheads, which is a graphic novel by Rainbow Rowell with art by Faith Aaron Hicks. Have you read it, Pete?
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah, it's a blast from the past.
So good. It is about two people who work at basically like the Disneyland of pumpkin patches, and it's their last night working there. They've been the MVPs working there for several years. And the guy has always been in love with this girl who he doesn't know the name of, who works at the fudge place across the way from their place. They work at the succotash place. So it's very silly and very over the top. And so they make it their mission to try to track her down so he can tell her how he feels about her over the course of the night. You can kind of figure out how things are going just based on the situation, but it's so fun. It's so charming. Again, if you're enjoying She-Hulk and you're enjoying Rainbow Rowell's work on it, highly recommend checking it out. It was such a delight. Let's move on to talk about what I know is one of Pete's favorite issues of the week, DC's Legion of Bloom, #1 from DC Comics. Written by Ashley Allen, Kenny Porter, Zach Thompson, Calvin Kasulke, Julia Anta, Gavin Scott, Travis Moore, and David Wildgoss. Art by Isaac Goodhart, Brian Level, Hayden Sherman, Vitor Kafagi, Alan Pasalakwa, Adagun Ilhan, Travis Moore, and Riley Rosmo. This is a collection of stories kicking off spring in the DC universe. Pete, Why did
Come
this
on!
one hit for you so hard on this first day of spring as we were taping it?
Well, first off, like, the Riley Rosmo Superman stuff was just, oh, wow.
Hard agree. Hard
Oh,
agree.
my God.
Really great.
I'll get you in the feels. Just some amazing, amazing stuff. It just looks so cool, and you kind of really feel the emotions with the character. I think they did such a great job. But also, like, the most adorable Captain Carrot. Like, I couldn't believe that story. It was so cute. Took me so by surprise. I was like, Captain Carrot, all right, here we go. What are we going to do here? But I thought it was such a fun choice. Also, the Blue Beetle, the Swamp Thing stuff was great. Then Dove, I had such a great time. The Poison Ivy story, where she's just hanging out in a flower shop doing good for people. Oh, I felt like they did such a good job of like having this cool theme and bringing in this collection of stories. Art, of course, was super tight bananas across the board. A lot of really fun choices being made. I just feel like this is a smart idea because it's like taking great stories, putting them with great artists, and just letting them run in such a creative, cool way. It's a blast.
Spring is here. I liked a lot of those stories as well, especially the Superman one, the Swamp Thing one I enjoyed. But the one you didn't shout out that I really liked was the Batman story, the second story by Zach Thompson and Hayden Sherman, which had sort of a scary horror element. Great last panel, I thought. But a lot of fun in these pages.
Order and Outrage, #1 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Jim Starlin, art by Rags Morales. This is a book that takes place, I believe, in space, and things happen in a non-sequential order throughout the book. What did you guys think about this one?
Well, Alex, what did you think about this one?
Oh, that's a great question. My main thought is I'd love to hear what you guys thought.
Oh, interesting, because
nice.
my main thought was wondering about what you thought.
Yeah. This is incomprehensible nonsense that is beautifully drawn by Rags Morales. I'm sorry. I love Jim Starlin. Like, on an individual basis, if you look at this page by page, if I saw this in a museum, I'd be like, cool, these are some wild space pages by Jim Starlin who knows how to write this stuff. But every page, and maybe this is the point, and maybe I'm mentioning it, he keeps jumping from scenes where it's like, this is one of my least favorite things anyway, but going like, then, now, because that's so non-specific in terms of a time period. Just like say when we're going to, and it's fine, or indicate it visually because we're reading a comic book, but he keeps changing up the words throughout the book.
Sometimes it's before.
Yeah, then, now, before, after, here, there, far, near,
everywhere,
big,
everywhere,
small.
Here's a cock and balls.
I didn't know what was going on, and maybe you guys knew. Yes, there is a cock and balls in the book. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's not anything to be mad about. That happens.
Balls. What?
That's how I tell.
Honestly, I always go into something wanting to like something, and this one I came out completely flummoxed. Did you guys feel differently? How'd you feel about it?
I think I felt as flummoxed as you. If anything, for me, it was just like this book is moving so fast. It felt like it had to be written in a hurry or something. But the art is so meticulously done.
So you were saying it's like too fast, maybe too fast?
Excuse me? I do think it
is.
is.
You said that as if that was a pun, and it's not.
It is outrage. It's this order and outrage, more like out of order and outrage.
Ooh,
right, guys?
I see what you did there.
And there are some of the little vignettes that I feel like, oh, this is interesting. Like the one that Pete was mentioning at the end with these two characters in bed. Like this scene is interesting, but like to Alex's point, it's hard to tell.
She's scared for her life.
Yeah, well, I'm curious what it means. It's hard to tell how this scene connects with a lot of the stuff that came before and sort of what it's amounting to. And it did feel like we were like, all right, we got to keep going. It's like, why are you in such a rush? It's a comic.
And one of the things is that like Rags Morales is, like you were saying, such a detailed artist who draws in this very DC classic superhero style. If it was something that was supposed to be avant-garde, throwing you into these different situations through these different time periods, that it's not clear how you exactly connect, you need a different artist for that. It needs to be something
Right.
that breaks apart the art and down into its component pieces the same way the storytelling is doing. Otherwise, it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Or even multiple artists or multiple styles of art, perhaps.
Yeah.
It was jumping around a lot. It was hard to, once I kind of got the idea of something, it was on to something else. So I just think that, like, there's a lot of great ideas. I'm looking forward to maybe another issue or two when maybe it's found a pacing or something, kind of picking back up with it.
Wasp #3 from Marvel, written by Al Ewing, art by Cian. It's funny that we're following up the last issue with this one because this is the most broken apart issue of Wasp. Our two Wasps have been taken over by old enemies who are controlling their minds and breaking them out into different time periods and realities, though it probably exists just in their mind. I've been very into the series, but this is another one that I had a hard time holding on to. Justin?
Agree. I really like Al Ewing, and especially this felt like almost a companion book to the Ant-Man series that we all liked earlier that Al Ewing also wrote. And this book, I feel it's so hard to follow, and I don't know really what the point is. I feel like it's a lot of characters like, oh, they were both Wasp. They're mad at these other characters for very particular reasons. It feels like there's some avenging that needs to happen. But it doesn't ever sort of come together why and what they're doing, and it feels like none of the characters have control of the situation. Even the villain feels like he's like, ha, come get me, maybe.
I really like the creature design and the art. I think it's very cool and unique. I felt like this was very fast-paced, which I think also made it kind of a little bit hard to kind of roll with. But I thought it was very interesting and kind of sucked me in a way that I was like, maybe I'm not sure happening now, but I'm definitely going to kind of check back later.
This was very similar to me to Al Ewing's Defenders work in terms of breaking down reality, and it contrasted with the first two issues, which were pretty straightforward. I'm still curious to check out the last one because I like what they're doing with the series, and Cian's art is really gorgeous with the character designs, like Pete was saying, but this one was a hard one to hold on to. Nightwing 102 for DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor and C.S. Picot, art by Travis Moore and Eduardo Pensica. In this issue, Nightwing has been captured by the Smiling Man, a new villain who is coming after this little girl.
Freaking me the fuck out.
The goal of Neron, I think?
I say Neron, but I don't know.
Okay. It's one of those Magneto guys, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is coming after Nightwing, and Raven wants to go after him. We've been loving this book. Do we continue to love it?
Real quick, because I feel like we talk about Nightwing a lot. We all love Nightwing. Every issue is very good. On the count of three, let's say whether it's Magneto or Magneto. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Magneto.
Right, that's all of us. Okay, Thanos or Thanos? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thanos.
You say it wrong every time.
You say it wrong.
Why you don't tell me I'm wrong?
You're can say wrong. What did they say in the movies that we watched?
Different continuity. The comic book continuity may have a strong A. Dark Side or Dark Seed?
It's Dark Side, you fucker.
I don't know. I actually use both.
It's not Dark Seed. It's Dark Side.
It's Dark Side.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this Nightwing.
It's also Magneto. So
this Nightwing comic is really great. I don't know what it is about somebody who's smiling when they're doing horrible things that creeps me the fuck out. The smiley guy was really giving me a lot of stress. So the kind of like the fact that we, caught him. Stop. Both of you stop smiling. The fact that we caught him really just kind of like is just such a relief. It was such a huge happy relief, and I feel great about it, and I'm having a blast with this comic.
Great review.
Great.
They really snuck this Teen Titans book into underneath the Nightwing cover.
It's weird to me that they're doing a Titans book because that's what this is.
This is a full-on Titans book, and like I don't mean to be super negative in that way, but I'm just surprised. Well, I'm not mad per se. Like I ride for Tom Taylor. It's a good Nightwing, or it's a good Titans book, but the Nightwing stuff I've been really enjoying. So as long as we keep getting that and keep exploring that, that's cool. But this is truly just like an action Titans story, and then we have a backup that is like a sort of a mystery detective
It's like if you
story.
went to the deli and you're like, hey, can I get a turkey sub? And they're like, yep, no problem. And you got the turkey sub, and then it was turkey and roast beef and salami with a little prosciutto on
So
it.
they added some nice
Right?
stuff.
And you're like,
they
this is
upgraded
good,
it.
and I like this, but that's not what I ordered.
Yeah, I ordered one Titan, and you gave me all of the great meat Titans that you have in your little bin there.
Blue Book number 2 from
sounds like a
Dark
great
Horse,
sandwich.
written by James Tynion IV and Michael Avon Oeming, art by Michael Avon Oeming. In this book, we're following it. What?
Can we talk more about sandwiches with each comic? You know, like each time we review a comic, we talk about a different sandwich. Was that
Absolutely. This is like a fucked up inside out sandwich that's gonna fuck you up.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, what if you went to the deli and they put turkey on the outside and a piece of bread in the middle?
That's Blue Book number 2. Anyway, this book is following 2 stories. We are getting a story of a couple who was kidnapped by aliens and following them in the 1950s, I believe. And then the backup stories are quote unquote true stories of alien abduction or meeting with others. In this case, it's some green people who are probably fairies. The backup story is entirely Michael Avon Oeming telling it. Amazing package. I love this book.
Another just great, super confidently written book by James Tynion. Like, it's so good. It's mysterious. There's a tension underlying it. Interesting time period, interesting focus. It's like exploring just straight up classic alien arrival stories. Michael Avon Oeming's art is really good. It's so spare, which very much his style, and it really matches with our front story. It's just great across the board.
yeah, I really agree. JT4 is killing it. Also, the art.
I can't lose.
The art does such a great job of capturing these moments, and these kind of like still moments are so. The tension is so great in kind of these UFO encounter situations. It's just such a great team on this book. It's very interesting. It's unique. Yeah, I mean, if you're not into UFO shit, then you probably won't like this. But other than that, it's really solid.
This also, I'll mention, feels like an extension of Department of Truth, even though it's a different series.
Interesting.
And this is top tier Michael Avon Oeming. He is just killing it on this book. The backup story looks like an illuminated manuscript come to life, and it is gorgeous. As much as I like the front story, this one, the backup story was the top tier one for me. So great stuff. Definitely pick up this book. Undiscovered Country, number 24 from Image Comics, written by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule. Art by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Leonardo Marcello Grassi. We're finally finishing the time travel story that has been going on and moving on to the next zone of America towards the end of this issue, as well as a big twist, the giant corn zone.
Yeah,
as well as a big twist that's going to change everything about the book, potentially. What'd you think about this one?
I mean, this continues to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's just everything about it is wild. It's like similar types of adventure, but all the details are different. The characters are still just fighting their way through. Like, we got to get to the next zone. I was like, do you? You think the next one's going to be better? The corn's too big. The corn is too big in that zone. What if that corn starts popping? With global warming being what it is, perhaps in this world? I mean...
Obviously, when you see giant corn, you got to think, okay, there's going to be a giant monster who eats this giant corn, because why else would it need to be this big?
See, I thought giant butter. And hopefully big salt, and then like some of those little corn holders, so
dude,
you don't have to get your hands.
Listen, I'm not here. I'm not here for your big salt fucking takes. All right, I know you're.
What do you don't? You don't put salt in your corn? You don't put salt in your corn?
Butter, bro. Butter.
Oh,
Butter
can I give you a hot tip about corn? Here's what you want to do, right? Take the butter, you mash it with salt and pepper, right? So you make like a compound butter there. If you want to put some herbs or whatever in there, you can probably do that as well.
We're not here. This is not like...
Now, this is important.
No, we do this.
Important.
We
You got to understand this. My kids don't like the herbs, so I usually just do it butter, salt, and pepper. Take it, rub it all over the corn, wrap it in tin foil, and then cook it, ideally on the grill, for like 20 minutes. Rotate it halfway. No, I know. So like it really soaks in there in the butter. So good.
Anyways,
No, Pete, before you don't, we all have a recipe to say on this episode. So, like, Alex is doing his. We talked about this. We were all going to have to. He got giant corn. He got giant corn, and you're doing a Swamp Thing green hell salad. And I can't wait. And I'm doing.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm doing. Great question.
What are you doing?
Damn them cheese balls. Damn them cheese balls is what you're doing.
Damn them cheese balls. Yeah, Charles Soule is an amazing writer. These continue to be super creative and impressive. I mean, the one guy's writing Transformers, like Shockwave. I was like, oh, that is fucking really cool. This is just continues to be super creative, very enjoyable. Each comic is a fucking crazy adventure, and I've been eating them up.
Just like giant corn. What year do you think we're going to have real Transformers? Because this is set in the future. Pete?
I'm going to say 2070.
Oh, wow. Much further. I feel like maybe we won't live that long. Thought you'd put a year that you were going to see.
No, I'm going to come back as a fucking Decepticon and wreak havoc.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing Spider-Man number 22 from Marvel, written by Zeb Wells, art by John Romita Jr. We're finally getting into the arc, finding out what has happened to Mary Jane and Spider-Man. Turn on what happened is they got sucked into an alternate dimension, which is run by totems, where a evil god being is trying to kill Spider-Man to unravel the web of life. Leads almost directly into the place where we found Spider-Man, I think, at the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Justin, I know you were very excited about this, so take it away.
I mean, we had this big swing where Spider-Man and Mary Jane not getting along. Mary Jane has a kid and with another guy. And we're like, 6 months, how did that happen? Like, truly, how did that physically happen? A, and B, like, what's the deal? It's so like it was a big mystery that has been just hanging in the air for quite some time. And this issue, to get into some spoilers, like a heartbreaking moment where Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is the one who is sort of under threat here. And so he's trying to save Mary Jane, get her back to their Earth. And instead, she flips it and lets him escape so that he isn't immediately killed. They love each other. They're both trying to sacrifice for each other. And because of that, and time works differently in this dimension, like she is there with this guy, and obviously we're going to see more what happens there in the future issue. But I thought it was just a great heartbreaking, grounded sort of way to get into like how this relationship change happened. And I think we still have to find out why everyone on Earth hates Spider-Man. And maybe that's also where we're going to find out, because that's where Zeb Wells' run started. Everyone's mad at Spider-Man, and Mary Jane is married to another guy.
Pete?
All right, so this is very hard because this is just about before it's all going to go to shit. So it's just this magical moment where it's a sweet pocket where you've got a Spider-Man story that has him and Mary Jane in love, sacrificing for each other, and John Romita Jr. is doing the art. So it's a magical little pocket here before it all goes to shit.
And just to mention, when you're talking about a sweet pocket, you're talking about like a hot pocket with cake inside, right?
That's right.
Sweet pocket, they say.
Yeah.
And every relationship has a sweet pocket. I still remember mine with my wife.
Oh, man, there was that sweet pocket I remember at the beginning. Yeah. Anyways, I think it's one of those things where I don't want to keep going forward. I want to stay here, but this is great art and a fantastic story, and what we love about Spider-Man and MJ, and the reason that they are the best ship. So it's going to be shitty and sad when we move on and find out some other bullshit story. But now it's just sweet. It's Peter Parker and MJ together, willing to risk it all for each other, and it's a perfect scenario.
We're about to enter more of a savory pocket, where it's less sweet, less cakey.
Yeah, not for everybody.
Wonder Woman number 7.
Wait, Alex, what's your take on this?
I have some reservations just in terms of the whole totem thing and Spider-Man dealing with gods and stuff like that. Not really my thing. I like it when he is more dealing with realistic threats. There are stories that have made it work, and I do think the emotion is there and the tension is there. And like we've been talking about, John Romita Jr., unimpeachable in terms of propulsive action in the art. So I like what they're doing here. It's just the tone.
You hate totems.
The villain.
You're a totem hater.
Yeah, the villain doesn't quite work for me.
That's fair, and I agree. The villain is a little underbaked. Like if you didn't put your Hot Pocket in the microwave for long.
Right. And it's still, like we talked about with the last issue, it depends a lot on, you remember Amazing Spider-Man 535, right? That's one of your favorite issues. And it's not. I don't remember any of this.
Wow.
So I can gather it, but I don't have the emotional resonance of what's going on here yet. Wonder Woman 797 from DC Comics, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, Josie Campbell, art by Aman K. Nahulpan and Caitlin Yarsky. If you haven't read Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, #1, definitely check that out because it leads directly into this issue where Wonder Woman has been captured by Hera and the rest of the Wonder Squad, as I like to call them, is on the warpath.
The Wonder
Squad. How are you guys feeling about this?
This continues to be fantastic. The art's super tight bananas. You get the squirrel is back, so that's great. I mean, there's a lot of cool action. We're moving the story forward. Wonder Woman is doing great. I've been loving this. Becky Cloonan is killing the game.
I mean, we've been really on board with this run. I'm trying to think because we got the announcement that Tom King is taking over this book. And I feel like each of these issues that we have left are more precious. And I feel like we don't have that many left, a handful.
No, we really don't. It's a little bit of a bummer because they have been doing such a good job. Obviously, I'm looking forward and curious to see what Tom King is going to do on it.
And then maybe Becky will come back, hopefully. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Earth Divers #6 from IDW, written by Stephen Graham Jones, art by David Gianfelice. We'll definitely talk about spoilers for this one. So this is Earth Divers Kill Columbus is the first arc of this book where they've gone back in time to try to kill Christopher Columbus to change the course of American history. Here's the big spoiler here. They kill Columbus.
Got him.
Oh, dude.
Got him.
Don't spoil it for everybody.
Got him.
Oh, man.
I was in Columbus Circle today, and that statue's gone. Statue's
Wow.
gone.
Wow.
Not to make this a theme of the podcast, this was the hardest issue for me to hold on to in terms of jumping around in time. Really like the art here. I really like what's going on, but there's a lot of stuff, particularly in the future timeline, that I'm not 100% sure how it connects to everything else. And I think part of that is this is an ongoing series. We're going to see them jump to the American Revolution next. So there's still mysteries that need to be dragged out. But the past timeline with Columbus stuff, really well done and very tense.
Yeah, the guy makes a sail out of some corpses, so that was really reminiscent.
If you don't have, sometimes you gotta use skin. You know what I mean? You gotta be.
Yeah.
When you're on the sea, you gotta.
No, I definitely.
In the game. That's where the expression "the skin in the game" comes from.
I don't think.
Yeah, I had to go to a wedding. I didn't have a dress shirt, so skin shirt.
There you go.
Skin
Smart.
in the game, man. Skin in the game.
Smart.
I agree with you, Alex. This was a little hard to but when you said this
starts the collar, though, that's the tough part.
It's hard. Well, you want to use some sort of some really particular skin, like bottom of the foot skin, so you can really keep the.
Oh, smart. Yeah.
So you get a stiffer skin, you know.
Yeah. That makes
Who's
sense.
your skin tailor?
Yeah, who's your skin guy?
It takes a lot. But what I was saying, Alex, was this the hardest of this series for you to follow, or of all the books we've talked about? Because I think we had a lot of time jumping.
Of this series. Because
yes.
I think there was a lot of jumping around in terms of the timelines that happened here. That to me, when I got to the end and they were like, next up, Earth Divers, American Revolution, or whatever they're calling that one.
Yeah.
That to me felt like, oh, okay, that explains it. They were holding on to some stuff. They were not putting everything on the table in this first series, which otherwise we've had two very straightforward stories being told with the future timeline and with this past timeline. Here, there was a lot of jumping around, and it was a little harder to follow.
And I wonder if we were reading the trade of this, if it would be there'd be a little more clarity, because it does feel like after Columbus is killed, we jump forward and sort of like, the stuff we thought was going to happen didn't happen, but it makes me not quite remember the details of what they were doing. It was hard to sort of sew the whole thing together, I think, at the end, and maybe on a trade read you might have it more present.
That's fair. Well,
I just want to say I like the idea of this, and I think the execution is interesting, and there's a lot of fun historical twists on things that we know that happen, and then they're making different choices, which is great, and it's a fun idea to explore. But I do agree with the Zelvatron, where it bounces around so much it's hard to kind of like follow what's going on. But I am excited because they are taking big swings to kind of check out what happens next.
yeah. Let's talk about Vanish #5 from Image Comics, written by Donny Cates, art by Ryan Stegman. In this issue, we get a classic, is he actually in an insane asylum? Is this actually happening or not? And then we kind of
speaking of jumping around, another one that jumps around all over the place.
We're just bouncing around the room, right, guys? I mean, this is done. Yep, this is done. Famous
reference.
That's for you, Pete, because I don't listen to those guys. But this was done famously in the
specific lyric from a very
in the television show Moon Knight that we all are on board with, and no one would ever say anything mean about it. That's for sure.
100%.
I gotta say, I love Donny Cates, love Ryan Stegman. I was a little disappointed in this. Particularly because it's not just in Moon Knight. It's been in so many supernatural TV shows. We got it just off the top of my head. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We got it Penny Dreadful. I believe there was an episode of Lost that did it as well. There's been multiple shows that have done this thing where, like, is this character actually in an insane asylum? And you have a character who's a doctor saying, is it crazier that you are a magic dude who is killing all these other dudes, or that you're in an insane asylum the entire time? And Donny Cates is a smart enough writer that I wish he had poked holes in that trope a little bit instead of leaning into that trope. So that was a bit of a bummer to me. But Ryan Stegman's art always good. I still like the classic 90s Image comic style of this comic book. So I'm not out or anything, but I wanted more of a level of meta awareness of what was going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say I thought this was a well-done version of it. This was one where it was actually hard to tell which is real. I feel like in a lot of the sort of cliches of this, you're like, well, the fun one is the real one. The insane asylum's not the real one. But in this one is written and drawn in a way where you're like, it really could be either here. And honestly, we get sort of a reveal, but I sort of doubted the reveal a little bit because they really leaned into the insane asylum.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tropes you forgot to talk about is the, anytime you're in an insane asylum, you're hoping the A-team's going to show up and break out the, one member so they can start fighting.
That's a classic trope. And who's in it? Howling Mad Murdoch is locked in?
Yeah, that's right. You're goddamn right, yeah.
It's right in the name.
Yep.
And they trick that episode they trick him with Mr. T to drinking milk.
Well, they trick Mr. T into flying because he hates flying, but
because he does. But they put a drug in his milk.
Yeah,
because he loves milk, but he hates flying.
Well, of course, it does a body good. I mean, what are we doing here?
And then Face is really good looking.
That's right. Are we gonna go through the whole thing? But yeah,
the cigar guy's like, I'm gonna have this cigar.
Hannibal. Yeah, he loves it when a plan comes together. If we could,
oh man. And then there's a woman who's there sometimes, and she doesn't say or do much.
Hey, come on, let's not undercut her. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the writers of the A-Team did all the undercutting there.
That's fair.
Alex, what's the matter? Why you put it on a hat?
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyways,
doing something. You're talking about A-Team.
Yeah. Anyways, I do think this is great, but it does jump around a lot. So it's enjoyable though.
Can't believe that happened.
What happened?
This is too complicated. Do I really need? Should I explain a very long, complicated thing on the podcast?
Nope.
No, we don't have time.
It's actually very short, and you're going to be grossed out. Are you ready?
Nope.
Yep.
Okay, so my oldest kid, who is 13, had one remaining baby tooth that was not coming out. It was pulled the other day, and at the end, they were like, "Hey, do you want to take the tooth home?" And she was like, "No, I don't want to take the tooth home." And they're like, "Okay, sounds good." And then the guy came back a minute later and was like, "Well, here's your tooth in a tiny little chest," and handed it. And we were like, "What? Okay, fine, we'll take it home." And I decided to show it to my wife. And now, because nobody wants this tooth, over the past week, my wife and I keep hiding the tooth in different places where we can find it. And I can't believe she hid it under that hat in the little treasure chest. Good hiding.
Gotcha. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Man.
We do that with other parts of our bodies in my house, too. We hide them in other places.
I know that's a weird, messed up thing. I'm sorry.
Little scabs. We hide our scabs.
Very
and stuff
impressed
at
because I
different
never would have
warts.
taken that hat down other than
You know what's crazy is after you tell
you
us that
guys talking
story,
about this.
it seems like we got the wrong person we're talking to. You know what I mean? It seems like that Marnie is a real creative hoot and would be fun to
She
talk
really
to.
is. Why don't we talk about another
Well, real quick,
creative dude?
just an editing note. Let's. I know we usually would say like edit that out. I think that's the part we keep, and we edit out all the reviews. Keep people
Swamp
guessing.
Swamp Thing, Green Hell, #3 from DC Comics, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Mackey and Sean Moll. This is a post-apocalyptic old man Swamp Thing world, but it's also a little bit more of old man Justice League Dark, because we got Constantine in here, we got a new
Come on!
and some other stuff as they're all fighting against the end of the world. Gross, appropriately gross horror book, I think.
Yeah, intense
Agreed.
covers, very intense covers. Loved all the Constantine stuff. But yeah, you know, Lemire does some creepy work. So
This is a great read. Great, like just absolute end of the world. Something Jeff Lemire has written a ton of across a lot of his different work, from Sweet Tooth all the way to this very book. Yeah. And so it's a good story, and we pin a lot of it on a father and daughter in a nice way. I thought this was definitely a good short little 3-issue read.
Great.
Good stuff. Damn them cheese balls.
Damn them
Number
cheese
6
balls.
from IDW, written by Simon
Come on,
Spurrier.
say the real one.
Damn them all, number 6.
There
Written
we
by
go.
Simon Spurrier, art by Charlie Adlard. This is a all-out magic battle happening in London, I believe. Pete, what'd you think about this?
This continues to be great. We got a lot of answers in this issue. New deals are made. Art is super tight bananas. This is very fun, enjoyable shit.
Of the books that coming out currently where demons are trapped in coins, this is the one I like better, I think. I like them both, but this one, like, I like sort of the very British language that is used in here. The characters seem very lived in and real. And
Great.
we've had a little bit of a twist that I won't say at the end of this that I think is going to turn us into a whole new direction.
Absolutely. Torrent, number 2 from Image Comics, written by Mark Guggenheim, art by Justin Greenwood. So in the first issue of this book, we met a new superhero who was targeted by her arch enemy. Her arch enemy killed her husband in front of her after finding out her identity, took her son hostage, and brought him to a stronghold. And this issue, we go in some surprising directions. I kind of expected it would be like a raid, Die Hard type thing over the course of the series. That's not the direction it goes in. It goes in entirely different directions in this issue, and we get a tease. It's going to continue to go in different directions in the next issue. I was on board from the first issue, but given all these twists, I'm all in now. What about you guys?
Interesting.
I agree. I like the twists here. And you know what this reminds me of? This is like a grown-up Kick-Ass.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an apt comparison? Like, it feels...
Yeah, we mentioned that with the first issue. I think you weren't here, but
Oh, nice.
Yes, 100%.
Well, I thought I was really on it with that one, but I guess we're all the same, the three of us.
Pete mentioned it last time.
Yeah, I sure did.
Me and Pete have never been off the same page. La page.
Oh, wow.
We're always on La page.
Yeah, I just think that this does take some interesting twists, which is very enjoyable. You know, and it's also kind of a thing that you don't expect to see ever. So I don't really want to give it away, but the move she does at the end is like, wow. So interesting to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I know we're dancing around spoilers, but I think ultimately this is Mark Guggenheim writing at the top of his intelligence. And I mean that legitimately in a complimentary way, where it's not taking the easy way out of, okay, now she's going to fight her way up a tower for the next 5 issues. Instead, we get that out of the way in this issue, and then we move on to other things, which is harder to write, more challenging, but ultimately more interesting. GCPD, The Blue Wall, number 6 from DC Comics, written by John Ridley, art by Stefano Raphael. This is the final issue of the series, which has followed a bunch of rookie cops in Gotham. One of them has gone over the edge and is killing a bunch of other cops because of his treatment. Renee Montoya is directly going for him in this issue and dealing with some stuff herself, as well as the systemic problems that are happening in the GCPD. I was very iffy and very thrown about the direction in the last issue, but how do you all think this wrapped up? Good night, Pete.
Oh, thanks.
I liked the way this book ended. I agree. This book sort of touched a lot of edgier issues and sort of treated them sort of in your face, like didn't sort of sugarcoat them at all, and really just ran at them hard, let the characters do bad things across the board to themselves and others. So it was a raw read, I think, but I like the way it ended. I really like Renee Montoya. Great character that I wish we saw more of across all of DC Comics, even though she's sometimes the question and sometimes not. In this case, not. I like the way they talk about how Batman is bad for Gotham in this, in a good way, in an interesting way, that is. And just a great, gritty, sort of grounded in reality story about hard things, hard choices that police have to make here.
Yeah, this is tough because obviously we're talking about police, and there's a lot of feelings around police brutality and all sorts of hot topics. So the problem is we had this interesting kind of setup
and hot pockets.
Yep. Great. Thank you. We had this kind of
topics.
We had this interesting kind of setup for the story, and I was hoping for something. I don't know, maybe that was going to say something or be something bigger, but at the end of the day, it was just kind of like, this is a fucking shitty system that will chew people up and spit them out, and life is fucking really hard. So I was kind of like, oh, all right, well, I knew that. But I did appreciate, like Justin was saying, that they didn't shy away from some things, leaned into them. But I was hoping for a little bit, maybe different choices or something other than the reality of the shitty world that we actually live in.
Well, I don't think, not to interrupt you, Pete, and I know you're not saying this, but I don't think we're going to get solutions for police brutality and systemic racism in a comic book. I think the idea here, if anything, was to present these ideas to comic book readers through the lens of Gotham City. The question in my mind is whether it was successful, and I think maybe not. And part of the reason I say maybe not is how thrown I was by the 4th and 5th issues that took this turn into this kid essentially becoming Punisher because of racism, which just did not work for me. It was too much of a turn. It was too much of a turn into like both hardcore realism and comic book surrealism at the same time, which just did not gel. And I agree with you. I think this last issue on its own was a good Renee Montoya story, but I don't know, to the point that you're making, Pete, that it felt worthwhile or went far enough based on how far they went to the previous issues. So overall, I think a worthwhile series and a well-meaning series that didn't quite work across the board.
Yeah.
I have a completely unrelated question for you, Alex. For a while, we talked about the Flash 1 minute war, and in the last 3 or 4 stacks, it hasn't been here. Now, have you stopped reading it, or are you trying to not talk about it with us because we kept saying how the Flash is fast?
Tower number 2 from A Wave Blue World, written by Cameron Johnson and Kelsey Barnard, art by Chris Cross. This is taking place in a world where there is a very realistic video game that a bunch of folks have been sucked into. And a surprise twist in this issue, we immediately get to see the world outside of this game and some people who are controlling it, something I was not expecting at all to happen. And we get a lot more fights. I know we were yeah, take it away.
Plus the Punisher hawk that shows up.
There was, in fact, a hawk with a skull symbol on its chest. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this one because I know we're intrigued by the first issue. How do you think it was followed up on in the second issue?
Well, I still don't exactly know all the things that are happening, but as a fan of the Punisher, I thought a Hulk with a skull on his chest was pretty cool. So I was like, all right, I'll stick around for another one and hopefully get some more answers.
Yeah. Just real quick question. Do you think a Punisher bird would punish bird crimes or would he help out the Punisher to punish human crimes?
Yeah, exactly. I think a little from column A, a little from column B, hopefully. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Would then the Punisher bird have to be like, hey Frank, we go do some bird crimes now because we've killed a lot of human criminals, but like you haven't really been focusing on the birds that I'm here for.
Well, hopefully, if Frank's working with a Punisher hawk, he would, assist in, their community as well.
So if you saw an issue where the Punisher's just killing birds, you'd be like, about time.
About time.
About time.
About fucking time.
Right.
This bird population is getting out of hand.
That's true, yeah. I know, and his family was killed by other owl mobsters, right? Came through and killed him, but there was an underlying issue that he had from
he was in the
him.
trees of the park, and a couple of stray bullets killed his family. They were
Stray
having
bullets?
Shout out to stray bullies.
Shout out to stray bullies. They were having a worm picnic, and his whole family died.
And the thing with the worm picnic is you got to eat them fast because they're gonna try to get back in the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're eating them.
Yeah, and if you only eat half, you got another worm, baby.
You got to give it time though. You got to let it grow.
Yeah.
Or was that a line you were using if you're trying to pick up a bird? If you're trying to flirt with a bird.
Hey man, you know me. I'm always going to the park and flirting with birds. Are we talking about Tower number 2? What did you think about that book?
So this comic, I don't quite understand how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels, we talked about some other books that are like, oh, this feels like it is sprung out of Squid Game. This feels the most like it sprung out of Squid Game, and just like, but what if it was a little more video gamey than maybe you think it would be? And that's where we are. But I just don't quite understand the mechanics of it in reading this. And but the art is interesting and the action is good. So
I like it on
I'll
throw out I like it on an individual panel by panel basis, but I don't think the action connects very well. And there's a couple of too many things going on with the storyline to completely follow what's happening. But I don't know. I'm still intrigued by it. I feel like as they whittle down the amount of people that are in this game, it might be a little easier to follow. So I'm still curious to check out the third issue. Speaking of third issue,
I guess I would say the Flash is very fast.
Infernal Girl Red number 3 from Image Comics, written by Matt Groom, art by Erica Durso. This is the final issue of this part of Infernal Girl Red, though she will be back. We finally get her inhabiting all of her power, fighting against this dude who has stolen the university she was going to from Earth and put it into space. One of the things that I loved about this book, though they're not very explicit about it, is it's clearly teeing up some big things for the massive verse, big mythology things that are going on, both with Infernal Girl Red and the enemy that everybody is seemingly going to be fighting in the massive verse. If you're wondering what the stakes are here, I think it lays those out pretty cleanly. And also, it gives a really tragic origin story for Infernal Girl Red. Yeah, exactly.
It was very emotional. It was really...
Good.
I was just going to say, love the emotional kind of story. I loved all the dragon action we got in this. There's a cool anime feel to the art style. I am having a blast with this.
Anytime I read a massive book and I'm like, how do all these books just really do it? And I'm trying to crack the code. And I feel like it has something to do with just the guardrails are up on what type of story we're telling here. It's like straight superhero action, maybe inspired by some video game logic and pacing, where it's just like you're thrown into it. The superpowers in the power sets are pretty well defined in all these books across the board. Same here. And then adding in like great emotional moments like we get at the end of this, and just nice characters that talk to each other pretty clearly. So it's just, to boil all that down, it's like, just good comic storytelling is making every massive book good. Am I a genius for saying that? No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
Deceased, War of the Undead Gods, number 7 from DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor, art by Trevor Hairside and Luca Meyer. In this issue, Alfred, who is now the Spectre, goes back to Earth to get the cure for the zombie virus, something that they confusingly have not brought with them, despite the fact that they're dealing with
I would have brought
virus.
it. I would have packed. But you know when you're packing for a trip and you're like, I'm not going to need all this zombie cure. And then you're like, no, that's the one thing we needed.
Oh, my God, I forgot it.
The one thing I needed, we didn't pack it.
I didn't bring my skis to the ski trip.
I'm enjoying this series, but the entire issue, I was like, why do they not have any zombie cure on them when they know that zombies are a problem? And then Alfred was like, I got to go to Earth. And he comes back from Earth and he's like, guess what I got? Zombie cure. And they're like, thanks, Alfred. Great job.
Smart.
Alfred.
It's like his version of superpowered cucumber sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's buttling. He's buttling on a very large scale.
On a cosmic scale.
Brings cosmic butler. Hello, spinoff. Let's go.
Great time.
Great review. Why don't we move on to the next book?
Yeah, no, I think that this is just crazy stuff. I love the cyborg moment where he's like, I have all of Brainiac's powers. Is crazy. Amazing last panel. Yeah, I think this is just a blast.
Great horror moment when Damian gets infected with the anti-life. I thought that was awesome and scary. In general, I've loved this. I want more of this and DC versus vampires all day.
Immortal Sergeant, number 3 from Image Comics, written by Joe Kelly, art by Ken Nimura. This is about a cranky, racist old sergeant who is about to retire. He has been teamed up with his totally liberal soy boy son, who he's taken around to a bunch of bars. But we get a reveal of what the actual plot is finally in this issue. Pete, you're digging this, so... what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I relate to it because my father is a ridiculous human being, and but I just think it's one of those things where this is a fun kind of odd couple scenario, just kind of turned up to 11, where the old guy is right and also kind of like has a plan, and this young guy has kind of got to play along with all this madness. And there's a lot of over-the-top action, but also Joe Kelly does a good job of balancing some humor in there, and you're kind of laughing at the ridiculousness of it all.
Yeah, this book is wild. Really keeps catching me off guard with the choices that are made, and it feels really original. The art is totally works and is really interesting. I find it interesting, Pete, that you identify with the son in this, as our resident curmudgeon. Like it feels like you could identify with both characters, maybe.
Yeah, it does feel that way. Thank you for pointing that out. Also, the art is just crazy type bananas.
Superman number 2 from DC Comics, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Jamal Campbell. In this issue, Superman is fighting against an army of parasites who are taking over Metropolis. Lex Luthor is buzzing in his ear, trying to get them to team up together, and Superman, of course, doesn't want to do it. I really dug the first issue of this, and I really like the second issue of this as well. This is an exciting, propulsive Superman story.
It's like almost like a horror take on Superman. The art is much darker and moodier than a lot of other Superman books, and what happens is scary throughout, except for the 3 or 4 pages where Superman meets a new character it's like a crazy introduction where it's like, who are you? Here's a bunch of information about me, and I'll say my name right as I leave.
I love the art on this. I feel like it's a fun, kind of cool, clean take on Superman. This was a blast. Loving this story, like this kind of whole Superman Lex Luthor back and forth here in this.
And for my recipe, I guess it's going to be super manicotti. And what you're going to do is you're going to take red kryptonite and
don't interrupt him. Keep going, Justin.
I'll have you know, I ran out of gas right after I said super manicotti.
If you'd like to support this podcast and all the podcasts we do, as well as our recipe blog, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to not Crowdcast, Facebook and YouTube. Come check it out. Rip Crowdcast. We would love to talk to you about comic books. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on TikTok and Instagram, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the comic book shop.
That was really fun. I guess we'll call it Comic Book Club's One Bad Day.
Sweet.